Mexico is going to be your Clash Royale champion. Takes it. Sergio Ramos wins.
Huge. And nothing to stop the Hog Rider. It's going to get swing on the tombstones. That's it.
Nobody's the first ever CRL World Champions.
And there you have it. The fire goes up. It's a gold this time. 293. Nothing to do it. Team Liquid is going to be your CRL champion.
Team Liquid is done in surgical goal.
117 HP remaining. EQ trying to make room. Team Queso completes the reverse sweep, and they are your 2020 Clash Royale League World Champions.
It's Sunday in the Clash Royale League, and that only means one thing. Our 8 are whittled down to 6, and of course, 2 rookies, 1 complete unknown still in our winner's bracket, but some big-time names trying to claw their way back up to the top. Hello and welcome. I'm Rich Slayton. As always, my buddy Andrew Guy here for a great day of CRL. And Andrew, yesterday, we had some pretty big surprises.
It's been a crazy 24 hours, man. Sandbox and Ta are going to be a great showdown in that winner's bracket. And over the last 24 hours, a lot of things have happened. Schwarzen goes to the #1 spot in Grand Challenge Cards 1 at 1.4 million. Dark Angel calls out the E-Barbs on Twitter. And most importantly, Joshua Sharon turns 21. So it's been an exciting 24 hours here for CRL.
Happy birthday there, AC, and part of our casting team alongside with Eric Benamou and the 2 of us. Andrew, one thing we've seen is with the balance updates, the changes, the first ones in a few months, we've now seen not just a new meta, but an absolutely wild meta, stuff that you wouldn't expect. CWA's decks are 2-0 so far on the weekend. What else do we expect at this point?
Well, it's crazy. When we actually take a look at our duels format, it's obviously something that we knew was going to change the strategy a lot coming into 2021. Now, with this massive balance update, the duels format is even further complicating that by making that first deck that you play have to be a very, very safe deck. With how dominant the Mother Witch is, with how dominant the E-Barbs are, and the fact that they cannot be repeated, you don't want to give too much to your opponent in that first game, Rich. Obviously, 4 decks, 32 unique cards. Each deck can only be played once per match, and the players must win with 2 of their 3 decks. These are BO3s.
BO3s, and of course, what are they playing for here? Quite a lot of cash, $20,000 to first place. Of course, everyone here on broadcast today has made it to 6th or above, so $3,000 at least. But every single match from this way forward is an elimination match, which means $1,000 on the line at minimum in these first couple of matches, plus more, and it gets bigger and bigger, the stakes higher and higher as we go on. And of course, those leaderboard points are absolutely critical. And the big question now is, how many more wins will Morton get? We know he's going to end the day on top of our global leaderboard, making that push towards World Finals. Will it be just barely on top, or will it be a huge run to create separation between himself and the #2 spot?
So speaking of Morton, you can see him at the bottom of our screen there, facing off against Rad. First matchup of the day in our elimination bracket. The winner of that will go on to face the winner of Dark Angel versus Schwarzen. And as Rich just said, whoever loses those matches will be eliminated, walking away with $3,000 apiece. A pretty big prize pool there for getting that far down in 5th and 6th place. Now, at the top of our screen, we see Ta and Sandbox. Now, remember, both of those guys still have a life to give. So whoever loses in that 11th matchup there, the first one on day 2, will drop down into the elimination bracket and still have a chance to go to our grand finals.
And that's going to be a fun one there, Andrew, because that's a match to guarantee yourself $10,000. So you talk about those big BO3s. Yeah, it's going to get crazier and crazier as time goes on. And, of course, you'll be here for some of those big high-stakes matches. But for now, we're going to say goodbye to Andrew Guy and bring on another member of our casting team here. Of course, a CRL Western champion, a CRL North American champion, and the birthday boy himself. Welcome, Joshua Sharon, onto the screen. What's happening, man? First of all, on behalf of everybody, I know I'm speaking for everyone watching, for everyone in Clash Royale, happy birthday, brother. And very excited that you were able to spend that birthday here with us in CRL.
Yeah, I'm super excited. You know, when I found out that it was gonna be my birthday and I was gonna be casting everything, I got excited. I got a little bit giddy, I'll be honest.
I get to spend some time with friends, right?
Yeah, I get to spend some time with friends. It's going to be a beautiful time.
Beautiful indeed. And of course, our first match is one of the, if you want to talk about beautiful, some of the most beautiful players, if you want to put it that way, some of the most beautiful gameplay in the history of the game. The come from behind, the comeback king, Morton, who plays from behind in bad matchups consistently, but still finds himself at the top of the leaderboards all the time, up against one of Japan's favorites, longtime Clash Royale pro, Rad. This one should be a lot of fun, but you know, it feels like you do have to give the slight edge here to the German.
Yeah, for sure. Obviously, Morton has put in work this year, yeah, and last year, and the year before. This dude will consistently bring in top 4s, top 2s, and hopefully we're going to see a top 1. Radwimps, on the other hand, we saw exactly what he was about yesterday. The prediction barbs multiple times throughout every single game. I mean, it was beautiful gameplay. I was shocked. I was genuinely shocked to see what I saw yesterday out of him. I can't wait to see what's happening in this game.
It's going to be really, really interesting. We'll get to that game here in just a moment. You know, some of the things we saw yesterday were some interesting changes in deck selection. Morton, in particular, was playing a deck straight off of CWA's channel, a no-win condition bridge spam deck. There's a lot of craziness going around right now. There's a minor wall breakers, rocket, Ice Wiz control deck going around. 3M Pump is back. To a certain degree, at least, in some ladder and grand challenge play. Anything we haven't seen yet that you know is bopping around that you think we'll see today?
You know, I'm not exactly sure. I personally don't know, but I do know that we will see something that we haven't seen. I can't tell you what it's going to be, but I know, especially Morton, especially after he brought out that Prince deck, I can't wait to see what's going to happen.
Well, we'll be getting to that one in just a little bit. Of course, Morton and Rad upcoming. We're going to be getting later, though, to, of course, that winner's bracket final. Man, and it's a crazy one. Ta and Sandbox. You know, we've seen Ta kind of, what's the best way to magic his way through some of this with some moments where he's able to slide through. But Sandbox, so far, of all the 6 of the players who are remaining, it feels like Sandbox is playing at the highest level right now.
Yeah, I mean, it is like he starts a game and controls it. There is no weakness in his game so far, and I truly believe he's the strongest competitor right now.
Now, while we're waiting for our first match to kick off, Josh, it is your birthday today. So if there was one card that we could get Supercell to buff for your birthday, a birthday buff, what would be your choice?
For the people who know me, they know this is going to be my answer, but I'd like to see 3 Musketeers get a 0-second deploy time.
Wow. Just immediate drop.
Yep. No delay, no nothing.
Would it be broken, or would it just be fun? I'm trying to follow you on this 3 Musketeers insta-drop.
Honestly, I really can't tell you, but I do know that if you fit Pump, you fit E-Barbs, you fit 3M, it'll definitely be something that'll get really interesting.
Guys, instant deploy for 3 Musketeers. Maybe we'll see that in the next balance update. But for now, we are into gameplay. Here we go. SK Gaming's Morton at the top of your screen. Rad of Fav Gaming there at the bottom. And this should be a fun one. And Rad definitely known for some fun hair. Looks like he's changed the color one more time. And going with Mother Witch up against what looks like a Fireball bait variant.
Yeah. Andrew was talking about it right at the beginning of the show. We are likely going to see quite a bit of Mother Witch, and we are likely going to see quite a bit of E-Barbs.
We'll get in both of those here in game number 1. Bar Barrel E-Barbs in response by Rad on the left-hand side. Only damage so far, a little bit of chip on the right-hand tower of Rad as we go past the first minute of gameplay.
Yeah, Morton using the MK Royal Hogs deck. Just a very consistent deck. Yes, it uses your E-Barbs, and yes, it's also using MK as well alongside the Royal Hogs, so it can get kind of weird, but this is going to be a ton of damage right here. And overall, I just really like the deck. I think it's super strong. You bring the control aspect alongside having the E-Barbs and the Royal Hogs to get that pressure when you need it. It's a very solid deck, and right here it shows with getting 1,200 damage already.
And look at that, Morton choosing to eat the leap from the Mega Knight here rather than take it off the board or distract the forehand. And the Lightning completely taking things back. Rad now in the lead and adding to it, going to be under 900 HP for the Japanese pro.
Yeah, that was almost a crazy interaction where the Fisherman pushed the MK off of the bar to get it to lock onto the tower. But I'm pretty sure, and I can't promise you, I'm pretty sure that it didn't, like, I think it died right beforehand. But yeah, so much damage right there. Good awareness on Rad's side to be able to take that much damage, knowing that it's going to work out for him and it's going to be okay.
Mother Witch E-Barbs on both sides. Josh, this is interesting. You know, we talk about the power of Mother Witch right now, the power of E-Barbs right now. Why are they being paired together so frequently right now?
I think players are understanding that they need to get off to solid starts. They can't go down 0-1 and expect to be able to get 2 matchups or, you know, play perfectly 2 games in a row. They understand, hey, I want to get off to a very solid start. I don't care what I need to use. I can use Mother Witch. I can use, if I need to be using 8 spells, I'll use 8 spells. Whatever they feel most comfortable with, they want to be playing that in game number 1.
So here we go, final 15 seconds of regulation time, and the Flying Machine stays on the board and does not get turned into a pig. Absolute disaster here, and it connects on tower with a piggy tanking for it. That's going to be tower down. Morton completely abuses that Flying Machine. Lightning not able to get it off the board. That's a GG well played, game number 1 going to Morton.
How many games have we seen the Flying Machine just lock onto the tower and players just can't do anything to it? He gets the MK on top of the E-Barb, he gets the MK on top of one of the Hogs, but it's just not enough. The 2 Hogs are going to be able to escape, get the towers aggro, so that way the Flying Machine is going to be able to get free reign on the tower, and it's just nothing you can do at that point.
Big time blows going back and forth early on. You saw the Pigs and Mega Knight going through onto Rad's tower, and then the counter push here that took the lead back for Rad with a slight elixir lead as well. But as we were talking about, and this happened just before the moment you're seeing right now, that Flying Machine not getting killed by the Mother Witch. And yeah, look, we've said it a lot here on broadcast, Josh, and I think it's going to be something very, very important, that in these duels, figuring out in the given matchups what card you can abuse and continuously doing that.
Yeah, it's all about spells. It's all about, I mean, it's basically Mother Witch, E-Barbs, Flying Machine, spells. That's what you need to be worried about when you're these players playing in this duel format. If you have Lightning and your opponent has Zappies and Flying Machine and Mother Witch, you are going to be in trouble.
So here we go, game number 1 in the books for Morton. And now keep in mind, though, Mega Knight out on both sides, E-Barbs out on both sides, Mother Witch out on both sides. So are we just back to a normal meta now with all that stuff being off the board?
I mean, both players still have Fireball as well. We are going to see just actual meta techs. We're going to see just clean, no cards that can be construed as broken, no cards that can be construed as overpowered. It is going to be a clean game with both players using, you know, likely going to be Fireball as their spells.
And Morton going with some cycle here to start things off. Ice Spirit, Spear Goblins right into a Mega Minion. And this is what I was going to ask was, do we think Morton's going to go something with Miner in game number 2 now that he's not worried about Mother Witch? He learned that lesson the hard way yesterday and looks like he's going to the deck that got murdered by Mother Witch yesterday.
Yeah, and Radwim's running... Okay, I just wanted to make sure that he wasn't trying to use what Dark Angel was using and he was going to go Healer and then Giant as well. Radwim's likely going to be running Graveyard with this deck.
And running my favorite card in the game, Ice Golem.
Yeah, that's totally true. It always makes me laugh how much you enjoy that card being on the field.
He's just so sweet. He's a nice little fella.
It's pretty heartwarming listening to you talk about it.
Here we go, Graveyard in for Rad. Valk in response. Valk plus delivery here to clean things up. And so the lead being maintained right now for the German as we go closer and closer to the midway point of regulation time, 1686 to 2333.
Yeah, beautiful push by Morton right there. Not going to allow Radwims to get the full push that he was looking for because he went in with a minor bats and Rad did not have a snowball. He didn't have anything for it. Didn't have the Ice Golem and cycle. And that's why he was able to get so much damage on offense and defend so cleanly.
These two have met before in the past, of course, as competitors at the World Cyber Games in 2019, as Rad was part of that Asian champion squad for Clash Royale League in the first season, that spring season of 2019. So traveled to Xi'an, China alongside my co-caster, and actually everyone on this broadcast was in Xi'an for the World Cyber Games. Morton there as well. So right now a full-on reunion tour at the moment, but these two certainly familiar with each other, at least to a small degree.
Yeah, and I really like how he's making these pushes right now. He's making him spend so much. I love the offensive Tesla. It's going to get so much value, getting the Musketeer, getting the Mega Minion, and it's going to be fully healthy, not even getting the Ice Golem Splash on top. Just making sure that he's spending troops on defense. That way he can't get the correct pushes. And every time he goes in with the Graveyard, it's going to be Valk, it's going to be Royal Delivery, and it's going to be minimal damage.
Now, this is interesting. Snowball going to come in. Decent little chunk right now. The placement for Rad with the Goblin Cage behind Princess Tower, we've already seen that once now, force Morton to go to the inside number 3 spot and get picked up. And what do you think about Rad's choice there of using that Goblin Cage to help protect against miners?
Yeah, I really like what he's doing. He's just trying to set everything up in the back so that way he can overwhelm. The problem with that is you're going against Royal Delivery, Fireball, Valk. It's hard to get that full push, but it's also hard to go split lane pressure. He's in such a terrible position where he's already down 1-0 in the set as well. I don't know what he's going to do to try and get back in this game.
Fireball in on the Spear Goblin. Snowball does come around to get on the bats. Decent bit of damage trying to get in here for this Graveyard, but again, the quick cycle of Morton able to clean most of that up, 14-14 to 698, as we are about 40 seconds into sudden death.
Yeah, there's just nothing he can do. He spends the Snowball on top of the bats. He spends the Snowball on top of the Spear Goblins. And when you do it on both of those troops and you only have one Snowball and cycle, it does become a problem for you.
Final minute approaching. Triple Elixir on its way, and you see some white flags being woven in the peanut gallery there as the time ticking away here for Rad, and his life in this monthly qualifier is over. Morton does move on, adds some more money, and of course big time points, takes a very commanding lead now of our overall global standings. Very, very nice work for Morton, staying alive, moving on, and going pretty deep into this one, and it felt like that was never in doubt.
Yeah, I mean, it was just consistent gameplay for Morton. There was no hesitancy in any of his plays. He understood we were a minute in, and he already had 800 HP lead. He already understood, I have such a good matchup, I just need to play slow, cautious. There was one point where Rad was able to get an actual clean Graveyard push that got about 500, 600 damage, but it didn't matter. He didn't panic. He just used the bats on top of the Musketeer. He used the Royal Delivery on top of the Graveyard, then got a little bit of a counter push and got a little bit of minor damage on the tower, and it didn't really matter. He just knew, he didn't panic, and he did everything he needed to in that match.
Well, one of the big things to recognize here as well, Josh, is that we're so used to seeing Morton playing with bad matchups in these competitions. And this time he went with a much more safe option in game number 1. We were talking about that. You were talking about that Mother Witch and Ebarb's combination being very safe, being very secure. And Andrew mentioned at the top of the show. And we saw that here with Morton. Played a safe deck game number 1. Game number 2, once he knew the Mother Witch wasn't there, went with the deck that was weak to Mother Witch and got a very solid matchup here in game number 2. So a big difference from what we saw yesterday. Yeah,
that's exactly what you should be doing. He uses all the cards that you don't want to use early on. Like you have to, a lot of people are thinking you should spread it out, make sure that you're trying to utilize those cards in every single deck. But sometimes it's good, just clump them all together, make sure that they work together, get yourself that win, get yourself that confidence, and then you can go just total comfort or even just total surprise. You have so many different options available to you, and Rad understood that, and that's why he couldn't do anything when he got into that matchup in game number 2.
You know, that first deck from Rad, I'm just now realizing that it was a no-win condition. I'm wondering if he was going for some sort of snipe on that one, or just what the idea was behind, hey, it's Mother Witch, Ebarb's, Mega Knight, and nothing that actually gets the tower there.
Yeah, I don't dislike that play, especially when you're going against someone as brilliant as Morton. Sometimes it is the play to put yourself in a weird deck that you don't even fully understand how to play because you're just trying to get a free win on one of the greatest players in the entire world right now. And
Well,
so I like what he was doing there.
Well, speaking of that, let's go take a look at the bracket as Rad's journey here does end and Morton moves on to the lower bracket. I guess you'd call it the lower bracket semifinal, but the lower bracket final to a certain... I'm trying to figure out how you actually describe that one. Lower bracket semifinal, as he will await the winner of Dark Angel and Schwarzen. And, of course, the winner of that matchup will go against the loser of Ta and Sandbox. But here we go. Coming up next will be Dark Angel and Schwarzen. One of those two will go home today with $3,000, but that's about it. The other one will move on to face off against Morton. And, you know, of course, either one of those guys chomping at the bit to get there. Who do you view as the more dangerous opponent for Morton in that next round if they do go through?
Well, it's between, do you want to play against someone that you practice with, that knows every single one of your decks, and do you have anything in reserve? Oh, I haven't showed him this deck? This is going to be a free matchup if I get to match up against this guy. Or is this someone, hey, we haven't even seen that much gameplay from him all year. He's obviously consistent. He's obviously willing to pull out Witch. He's willing to pull out Healer and Giant. So it depends what you're looking for from Morton. Both players are going to be interesting for him.
Yeah, that is really compelling, right? Schwarzen, you kind of know from a deck style. You know, we saw a lot. He kind of made his bones in 2020 being the best Barb Hut player in the game, right? That's sort of what he rode all the way into CRL, was being phenomenal with Barb Hut-based decks. And then what did we see from him yesterday? Well, we saw Double Spotter. We saw Goblin Hut and Furnace put together. So we kind of know Schwarzen's slower, more grindy playstyle. The other side of that, though, Dark Angel, as you mentioned, absolutely unpredictable. Yesterday took Giant Double Prince and swapped out Classic Prince, swapped out one other card, put in Battle Healer, as you mentioned, and it turned into, it looked absolutely crazy, but the big thing there was unpredictability.
Yeah, I mean, just seeing 3 troops on the left, the Dark Prince and the Miner, it was astounding to see a deck that looked like it had no synergy just work so brilliantly together. And yeah, I mean, it's exactly what we're going to see in this set as well. Both players are going to go unpredictable. I wouldn't... The fact that he was the best Barb Hut player and now he's the best player as well, I feel like you maybe should think about bringing Earthquake in your deck.
Yeah, we will definitely see if that's a choice that Dark Angel makes at some point. Bottom of your screen for the longtime Team Queso prospect, came up through their system, spent some time in Clash Royale League with Team Queso. Did Dark Angel. Top of your screen, Schwarzen, who was rumored to be the replacement on SK Gaming, potentially, when people were thinking that SK might be shaking up their roster in the fall. A lot of people thought that, hey, as a German, he'd fit in well there. Instead, ended up on Misfits, a place that no one really saw coming. And of course, didn't quite have the season there with Misfits that he had hoped. But now back here in the monthly final, and this is a good spot for Schwarzen to continue to grow what was already a nice profile from 2020.
Yeah, everything's coming together for him, and I mean, it has everything to do with the fact that he's grinding the way he is. He is ready. He knows every deck in the meta. I'm sure even with Dark, even with Dark, he probably would have been able to predict the Healer Witch coming out from him. He knows what's going on in this game.
So here we go, first minute away, looking like Royal Giant for Schwarzen. I could be wrong there, but Fisherman, Skeletons, Mother Witch with a lot of cycle. We'll see if that's the direction he's going in. And Dark Angel going Battle Healer once more.
Yeah, when it's Mega Minion, Baby Dragon, and Battle Healer, it's likely going to be RG with him. Obviously, it's kind of impossible to predict, but that is likely what's going to be the case, although now I'm starting to think it's something else.
Classic Witch 2 days in a row. Absolute maniacal gameplay here from Dark Angel. This is not counting the Witch Executioner meta. I think these are the other 2 times that Witch has been played in CRL.
Yeah, and he doesn't even give a cheeky smile. He understands something about Witch that no one else is understanding, because he feels like this is the card that he needs to be using to give himself an advantage over everybody else.
So certainly some pieces here that could be Royal Giant. It does feel like something beefy is going to be here at the end. Could he be going with either E-Golem or something else that's pretty heavy?
Yeah, the fact that he still hasn't used his building or his tank makes me believe that it's going to be at least 5 or 6 Elixir. I don't know what I want to try and predict from him, but I would definitely say it's going to be... Oh, we might be looking at Graveyard, actually.
This is fascinating. Graveyard Witch into a Mother Witch. I mean, you think about these Witch calls, and you're already seeing the Mother Witch turn a lot of that back the opposite direction. Schwarzen with a very, very slight lead added to by that Lightning as we go into the final few seconds of regulation.
I really like what he's doing right there with the Lightning, using a big, big spell. That way he doesn't have to worry about these. But right here is going to be a pretty decent push that might be able to get a decent amount of value, but a really solid defense. The Fisherman is not going to lock onto the Skellies from the graveyard. Instead, it's going to lock on to the troops, and that's going to make his life quite a bit easier.
How does Dark Angel really get on tower here? You have this Mother Witch that's so dangerous in response to both the Graveyard and the Classic Witch. Is this really just about making sure that every time you push Graveyard or push Classic Witch that you have Fireball ready for the Mother Witch?
I think what you do is you wait for triple, and once you get triple, that's when you get to do whatever you want. I think once he hits triple, he's going to be able to set up, and he's not going to be able to get enough lightning value because he's going to be able to protect different troops, do all sorts of things. And so if he can get there while remaining within 1,000 HP, that's what he would love to see. But I don't know, the Mother Witch is going to be spawning skeletons all the time. It's going to be, you're going to be able to get so much pressure because he can't fireball the Mother Witch and the skeleton dragons. He's getting too much log value. This is very difficult for him.
There you go, Royal Giant left-hand side. RG with a nasty connection there, supported by the Fisherman. You're going to get now under 1,000 HP, 916. Shout out to Sacramento there on the left-hand side of your screen as we go into the final minute. Triple Elixir on its way, and as Josh was saying, this is the chance for Dark Angel to try to make a statement.
Yeah, and I really like what Schwarzen is doing. He's just resetting. He's just trying to get lightning value whenever he feels like it's absolutely going to get the most value possible. But I love that he's not overextending with anything. He understands that if he tries to get that one good push going down the field, he's going to be able to get a ton of value with Mother Witch. And this is the exact push I'm talking about. Triple Elixir, 20 seconds left. Mother Witch isn't getting any Skellies right now, so it's not getting as much value as he wants. This is the push for Dark.
Here we go, Graveyard in. We'll see, final 10 seconds. Fireball trying to clear out some of that room. Can the Graveyard seal this thing for Dark Angel? Skeletons not getting on the board. Can they actually connect? 5 more seconds left. That's going to be it. Schwarzen holds on despite giving up both a Mother Witch and Skeleton Dragons to Fireball in the last few moments. Kind of gets away with one there in these closing minutes.
Yeah, obviously not the cleanest defense, but here's the thing. He needs to be spamming as many troops as possible. Technically, the thing about giving Fireball value in those kind of instances is if they just get that one shot going down the field, that can be enough sometimes. And so, yes, obviously given a lot of value, but it's okay. Everything is going to be fine. He just Fisherman's on top of the graveyard. He gets the log value. He gets everything low health where he can just clean it up easily.
So here we go. This was one Graveyard push. It looked like it might have some life, but as you're talking about, cleaning up fairly easily, and you saw there even a Fireball getting value on one Skeleton Dragon and the Mother Witch. And this Mother Witch was just more of a defensive menace, you know, created some offensive presence, but really just made it so it was so hard to break through, distracting the troops going in the opposite direction. And this was the end of the game. It looked like one big shot, one big downhill push for Dark Angel might be it. Instead, Schwarzen puts the kibosh on that conversation and takes game number 1.
Yeah, I really like the idea behind the deck, but the thing is, I mean, it is just so unlucky for him to be going against an opponent who's preparing in the way he prepared. The Lightning got so much value every single time it got played. He wasn't able to attack Barb Huts because of it, because of phenomenal pressure with the RGs at the bridge. Every single time he would place a troop, he would set up with a defensive Mother Witch, a defensive Fisherman. That way he could spawn hogs on the right lane and then go in with the RG on the left. He just made sure that he was getting enough pressure on both lanes to make sure that he could never go in on offense until 20 seconds left in the game.
So here we go, game number 2, match point now for the German, 82-27. Personal best on ladder for Schwarzen, who, of course, besides Clash Royale League, has been around competitive Clash Royale for a long time. Made it very deep in the No Tilt World Championship last year, making it getting first place in that 3rd stage, making it to the final stage overall, where one of our leaders' line ended up being the champion. And of course, lots of experience both in team play and No Till overall, not to mention DreamHack, the Red Bull MEO, all over the place has been Schwarzen over the last couple of years.
Yeah, he has had quite the run where he he puts in work whenever he gets the opportunity.
So 3-3 split with the 6-man here for Schwarzen and Dark Angel, P.E.K.K.A, Lumberjack, Electro Dragon, and that's a big push coming on the right-hand side.
Yeah, no P.E.K.K.A in cycle for these Royal Hogs. He will be able to NATO it to King Tower if he can pull everything, but he is going to make a pretty massive mistake. He's only going to be able to pull one Hog to the tower, and that might be tower completely down.
Absolutely shredded there. Tornado doesn't do its job. Fireball for Schwarzen ends up closing the door on that one, and now it really comes down to what I'm expecting. Is this P.E.K.K.A Loon freeze? Is there going to be a freeze in here as well with already 2 spells?
Yeah, that is likely going to be the case. I just don't like how he's setting up these pushes. He needs to just fully reset. It's okay that he lost the tower. These are the kind of decks, although this could be the push that he's looking for, and this might be a complete tower down.
Rage doesn't get the balloon to tower, does not quite, 705, but still damage done, 506 on that right-hand side. A lot of danger in that lane here for Schwarzen, but now he fires right on back with that healthy flying machine up high as well.
Yeah, King Tower is going to get below 2,000 HP. Crown Tower is also below 2,000 HP, but he did get a lot of damage. He does need to get another Lumber Loon to the tower in order to feel comfortable and be able to take it out, while also remaining with enough elixir to be able to defend. The E-Dragon needs to get so much value in this matchup, and it's almost impossible for me to believe that he has a shot right here.
Dark Angel setting up P.E.K.K.A and everything to that weak side, to the, strangely enough, the King Tower being the weak side in this matchup at the moment. P.E.K.K.A, though, still taking for the E-Dragon. This is a lot of value for the Electro Dragon right now. Flying Machine staying on the board for a moment. This Balloon, though, trying to sneak on through. Can he take care of the Flying Machine? No, he cannot. 258 remaining, and I don't know if there's enough time to get anything near that right-hand tower.
Yeah, the one opportunity was for him to go in with a Lumberjack at the bridge. Obviously, he wouldn't have been able to defend, but it's going to be too easy for him to just go in with the Goblin Cage, go in with the Zappies, and that's going to be game over. Brilliant gameplay right there. Just going so aggressive 2 seconds into the game, and that's exactly what you need to do to win that matchup.
Dark Angel out here at this number 5, number 6 spot. Went creative. Look, you want to talk about who went the most creative this weekend on decks? No question, it was Dark Angel, but just didn't pay off. And, you know, you take a look at what Schwarzen was seeing here. He sees the mistake. He also sees, hey, I already went up against Mega Knight. I'm right. Was it Mega Knight in the last game? I can't remember if that was the case, but he comes in here and sees the mistake and hits that fireball, and that's GG, well played.
Yeah, I mean, it was just exactly what he needed to do. Huge mistake from Dark Angel to not activate King Tower. Well, he did activate it, but with only one of the pigs, and it was just too much for him. He couldn't go in with the pushes. I liked what he tried. I liked what he did with the Lumber Loon before double elixir happened, because he was able to get a lot of damage. But here's the thing, he took so much damage on the rebound, and then he set himself up to not be able to defend well for the rest of the game. I think in that position, he has to set up with a P.E.K.K.A in the back, try and overwhelm, try and get E-Dragon value where he gets the chain on everything. But I don't know, he did what he could, and I was very impressed by his gameplay this weekend.
Yeah, a lot of really fun stuff out of Dark Angel. He does leave with $3,000, but Schwarzen now guaranteed at least 4, and a matchup against his longtime teammate, friend, and countryman in Morton will be coming up later today. Of course, that's going to be after we get through our winner's bracket final. Taking a look at the decks here. So no Mega Knight in game number 1, Mega Minion in game number 1, Dark Angel running a really interesting graveyard deck. And, you know, you talk about matchup situations here, Josh, and this one's certainly favoring the German.
Yeah, it was exactly the analysis on Dark Angel to be able to use Lightning in this RG deck instead of the often used Fireball. Really brilliant stuff, getting so much value on the Witch plus 2 other things. He was always using it for the Witch. That way it gets as much value as possible. But he also sure that he was, I mean, it was just brilliant, because he was allowing the Witch, whenever he wouldn't Lightning it, to go into the Mother Witch, where he was getting a lot of value with the spawned the spawned Hogs, and then he was getting aggressive, so that way he wouldn't be able to protect his Witch with a healer. He was doing everything he needed to do in that matchup in game number 1.
Game number 2 here, and you see the idea Dark Angel's going for, P.E.K.K.A Loon freeze. Obviously a very creative variation on a common 3-card combination, but in this case, didn't have the defensive items he needed for that big-time push in the right-hand lane. Recruits and piggies, and one misplayed NATO. The number of times we've seen that be a game ender, I've lost count at this point.
Yeah, I mean, we're seeing it from anyone and everyone. And when that happens, it is just so brutal for the morale. You could tell he was kind of off after that. He went in with the Lumberloon. He wasn't really thinking at that point, just trying to get freeze value whenever he could, and he wasn't really getting the value he needed. And it was just too much for him. He couldn't do anything at that point.
So let's take a look at the bracket as we are now down to our final 4. Our champion somewhere in this quadrant. It's going to be Morton versus Schwarzen down there on the lower bracket in game number 12. And they'll be awaiting the loser of our top bracket. So you see the journey here so far. Morton and Dark Angel taking out Bob and Samuel Basoto respectively. And then this morning, 2 clean 2-0s. And now they are awaiting their opponent. But the big story here has got to be the 2 rookies coming up next. Sandbox, longtime competitive player, so far has not dropped a game in our monthly final. We'll see if he can take out Ta and send him down with that lower bracket, or if the unknown player can continue his run here that has so far been nothing short of magical.
Yeah, I mean, everything is coming together for him. It is a Cinderella run that I have never seen before. He's doing exactly what he needs to skate by, and obviously that's not what you want to be that's not what you want to be doing if you're Ta or a fan of Ta or anything like that. But hey, it's working for him. It could keep going easily. And then Sandbox, obviously, just phenomenal gameplay. I mean, we have seen no weaknesses. Once again, he is just so solid.
Well, coming up next, we're going to say ta-ta as Ta and Sandbox come on out with our co-casters. Yeah, I can hear you laughing right now. Let's throw it over to Andrew Guy and Eric Benamou as they take it over for our winners bracket final.
So stupid. I love it. I absolutely love it. What's up, man? How you doing?
I'm doing great, and that's exactly the reason why I know I will never be as good as you two, because I just can't come up with something like that.
Yeah, I mean, it takes some brilliance to come up with Ta. And speaking of Ta, here we go. Ta and Sandbox in our winners bracket matchup. A lot of money on the line here. Obviously, both of these guys still have a life left to give. Eric, the biggest takeaway that I had from yesterday when watching these two guys, obviously Sandbox looks unstoppable, but Ta, when you look at the game tape, he played so many different win conditions. I feel like you know less about him today than you did yesterday.
Yeah, and on top of that, you add the fact that no one really knew him already. It's crazy. The only thing I do want to see from Ta is be a little more careful on the spells. We saw yesterday 2 missed lightnings. Yes, he won the match, but the way that Sandbox played, it just won't allow you to win if you miss any spells. He played perfect.
Yeah, and I think that's probably what Josh was kind of alluding to. You saw some really great gameplay from Ta yesterday, but just a few mental mistakes that at the highest level you will be punished for. They are very, very unforgiving. So here we go. Sandbox at the top of your screen. Just a little bit less game tape on him from CRL specifically because he was so perfect yesterday. The one thing we do know is that he loves his Royal Hogs.
He sure does. And I'm also very curious. I want to remind everyone that these are 2 rookies. Yes, this is the winners final, but they are 2 rookies, and I want to see how they do on this championship Sunday. You know, the nerves today are a lot higher than they were yesterday. The stakes are huge, so that might impact a little bit of the gameplay as well.
Loser of this match going to walk away with $4 grand. Winner of this match, guaranteed $4 grand. Winner of this match guaranteed at least 6. So a lot of money on the line here. Nice log to push that Magic Archer back and reset that damage on tower. Bottom of your screen, Miner. Top of your screen, Miner. Both of these guys going much more traditional and less new meta here in game number 1.
And it seems they both decided to save those very, very strong cards for later on in the set. We've seen when players use it early on, they give away too much information. So I do like this. They're both pretty safe bets. Deck-wise, you've been using them for a long time. They've been in the meta for a while now. So you know what you're going to get. Both of them have seen this before. And it's going to be a matter of that micro interactions and who can do it better.
Speaking of micro interactions, beautiful heads up Miner there from Sandbox, recognizing that Ta probably knows the last card in his deck is the NATO, so he goes to the safe spot with his Miner, but Sandbox sends out a defensive Miner of his own to the safe spot, picks it up. Beautiful defense there.
Yeah, and it's going to be about trying to get that one Magic Archer connection, right? Remember with Line when he won that CRL finals, he was killing it with the Magic Archer placements and the NATOs. I think he drove everyone crazy that month. So if he can do the same here, Sandbox, and just replicate that, try to bait out a good troop to put in front of that tower and get some chip with the Magic Archer, that might be the way he wins this game.
Line, our champion of March, walking away with that gigantic prize purse. And of course, those leaderboard points did not make it here. Probably Morton is one of the players most happy about that. There we go. Once again, always looking for that Magic Archer. Both of these guys playing very, very well. I like how aggressive Sandbox is, but I also like that every single time Ta is ready. Ta's been doing a really great job at picking up these miners, but it's not 100%. You can see that damage starting to add up.
Yeah, but the one thing I do want to say is yesterday we saw a little bit of hesitation, a little bit of mistakes from Ta. This time there is absolutely no hesitation. He saw that night, he recognized that there was going to be a Magic Archer Tesla right away, and I love to see that out of him.
Yeah, that's a really, really important and brilliant point that you make there. You see very, very little hesitation coming out from Ta today, which just means he's playing a lot more comfortable, a lot more confident, and you can really tell based off the ways he's playing these defenses. And while we're singing his praises, the caster curse comes in once again, the missed fireball on the Magic Archer. That's going to be trouble.
And it seems to be his downfall, right? Yesterday were the spells, and today starting off again with the spell. And it's not that hard of a fireball to do. Maybe he was just trying a little too hard to get everything. And at that point, it might just be better. Okay, let me make sure the Magic Archer gets off the board. I don't really need damage on that right-hand side tower, and it cost him a little bit. Also, I would like to see maybe at this point you do start trying to change that miner positioning, because it's not all that bad. Yes, he will activate the King Tower, but then you don't have to worry about the NATO offensive with the Magic Archer, so it allows you to defend a different way as well.
Yeah, that's a really great point that you make as well. I mean, opening up where you can actually get the miner on tower and then taking out that NATO, since, you know, you called early in the game, is probably going to be one of the biggest keys to victory here for Sandbox. Yes, the miner chip damage is going to come in on both sides, but that NATO to activate the Princess Tower damage is going to be the biggest problem for Ta, and that's why you can see these Teslas being set up where they are every single time that they're off cycle. And there you go, everything sent in on that tower, miner plus NATO plus Magic Archer at the bridge.
With this little time left, I think you have to take the risk. If you keep doing this, you're being down on damage consistently, and really 15 seconds, you have one miner cycle left, and that Tesla, yeah, just mistake.
That was a panic, man. That was a straight up desperation. Tesla dropped right in the lane a second late, and obviously there we go, Knight up front again, lining things up for the Magic Archer. Sandbox still undefeated in the winner's bracket.
He sure is, and it really comes down to top one, maybe not wanting to take that extra risk that you have to take. This is CRL finals. We've seen it over and over again. The best players in the world, when it comes down to these moments and you have first place on the line, $10,000, $20,000, you're gonna have to take the risk. It's not all about playing it safe, and I think that's what cost him here.
Yeah, I mean, that's one of the things that we've seen the greatest players do for a very long time, and just because he's our most recent world champion and arguably the greatest player in the world right now, Ruben is a player that you will watch do different things for a very long time, but never get hyper aggressive. And then, as you said, Eric, he'll turn any deck into bridge spam. Once he recognizes you made a mistake, he'll sell out. We never saw Ta sell out in this game. And obviously, it's not something that you want to do against this high cycle deck. He was doing a really good job with where he was placing his units for most of the game, but he never had control. He was always playing Sandbox's game.
He sure was, and it's a little bit unfortunate, obviously, for Ta, because it was a winnable game up until the end where he put that Tesla down in front, like you said, in desperation. He still had a chance. You change one of those two miner placements, you get a fireball in, and that was game over. There was a 400 HP difference just about there at the end. So he definitely has a chance. That's the good thing about when you look back on it. If you are Ta, you have to realize, look, I did a couple mistakes and I still only lost by 400. I could win this.
I want to circle back to what you were talking about a moment ago, which was sending the miner anywhere else on that Princess Tower to get the King Tower activation in, which basically means you're baiting out that offensive NATO. If you bait out that offensive NATO, then you can start to change up how you're defending. Now in one sequence, you've changed up your offense and your defense, and you have to make your opponent second guess what they're going to do. And that's, again, something that Todd did not force Sandbox to do.
And you also have to realize that every time he was predicting with the Valk, right? So if he does predict with the Valk like you expect him to, he still has to use the NATO. So he's spending 7 elixir on your miner, and
Wow.
then that doesn't allow him. Yeah, and the spells again.
Yeah, I mean, he misses the Electro Spirit taking out the barrel, so he has to overspend on the Snowball, and then he drops the arrows on the tower and hits 2 and not 3 on that Princess.
Yeah, that just can't happen at this level. And Josh spoke about it yesterday. He was getting by even though he was making a little bit of mistakes. That E-Giant matchup yesterday, he made a couple mistakes with the lightning, and that's just not going to cut it when you play against someone that is not making any mistakes since this started. I did not see one mistake from Sandbox yesterday, and I haven't seen one today either.
Yeah, and both of these guys very versatile in their deck. Sandbox going aggressive here at the bridge with the Princess, trying to create just a little bit of pressure. Now we see the arrows going where they want. That Inferno going to make light work of that Hog Rider. Eric, talk to me a little bit about cycle here, looking at the cards that we have in play, the spells that we have in response, and overall cycle here on both sides of the board.
I think this might end up being Sandbox overwhelming him at one point. Yes, he does have the arrows and the snowball, but if he can just keep cycle, there's not really much that Hog is going to be able to do, right? He doesn't have that zap. He doesn't have a lightning or anything like that. So if he just keeps hogging on the bridge like this, he's going to either give a lot of value and a very strong counter. What I don't want to see him is bundle up too many troops for his Sandbox, because if you do give arrows away, that might be the only issue. But eventually, I do think that Sandbox is going to take this game.
So here we go. Sandbox listening to exactly what you said, splitting his lane pressure. Arrows missed the 3 goblins, hits 2 of the 3.
Yeah,
Electro Spirit comes down on the right-hand side, and I can tell by the sound in your voice, you're getting a little tired of these missed spells, Coach.
I mean, it's just the arrow radius is so big that it just can't happen. You know, when you want to get to this level, he's been playing so well troop wise that all you need to do is, you know, take a little bit more time if you need. It's not a rush. The arrows, you can have it preset there, and it just can't happen, and it hurts me for him, right? Because he's in such a good position. He's playing well. The cycles are there, and it's just costing him the game.
Yeah, I mean, he has such a good damage lead on that left-hand side. We saw how much damage Sandbox took early on from that Hog Rider to set up a push. Now we see the Electro Spirit plus the Earthquake plus the Snowball come in. And that was a really nice defense from Ta, Eric. I think this is where it starts to feel like the momentum is going back in his favor.
That's what I like to see. You saw him wait for both barrels to be there. If it takes a tiny little bit more, just wait it out. You have time. The goblins don't hit right away, and that's exactly what he's doing. If he can continue to play like that, he will take this game.
Earthquake in on the left-hand side, Skeleton Barrel working its way across the board. Snowball there to respond, and a little bit more damage comes in on Sandbox's side of the board. Anyone just looking to take a game off of this guy, will Ta be the first one?
Beautiful placement as well on the Inferno Tower. He knew that he had Earthquake in hand in cycle, so he put it as high up as possible so that he could not throw down that predictive Earthquake and hit both, and the Hog was taken care of. So I really like that position movement from Sandbox and recognizing what's in hand, and great archers from Ta. Ta, this is what I like to see. Play with confidence, because when we've seen him play with confidence, he's actually played very well.
Exactly, man. That's a very confident play. You're sitting there, you're looking, you're knowing your opponent's cycle. You know that the Princess coming down would be detrimental to your success. You're going to have to overspend at the bridge, obviously into a lackluster counter push. 952 in the top left, 1316 in the bottom right. Ta finally getting a grip on this game, but is it too late? Arrows are in, no Electro Spirit, but Snowball cycle.
Yeah, the only thing that he has to be careful with is we did hit triple elixir now, and we've seen these bait decks go to work when it's triple elixir, barrel after barrel after barrel, and it could get a little tricky. And this is where he's gonna have to be perfect with every spell in your hand. You cannot afford to miss one.
And you can see that Sandbox is already making Ta work just a little bit harder. Now the Princess being cycled towards the weaker tower, usually something that you don't want to do in this situation. But obviously Sandbox trying to make Ta make mistakes. Barrel on the right side, barrel on the left. Spells are out. Electro Spirit goes to the left-hand side, arrows up at the bridge. This is finally what Ta needed to do the whole game.
Yeah, he's playing this perfectly. Yes, he took a little bit of damage on the left, but he recognized that with such little time left, it doesn't really matter. One more defense here, and the snowball missed, and it was just an unnecessary snowball. You did not have to do that at all. He does get away with it just because of how much damage he had taken, but it just barely 20. And you see the snowball, and you think what it was for, right? Because the barrel, it doesn't really matter if it gets to your tower as long as you take it off with that snowball beforehand.
Yeah, I'm wondering if he maybe misdropped his Valkyrie, or he just had the wrong card selected. The snowball comes out early, misses the barrel. He somehow still recovers a nice defensive earthquake, cycles back around to snowball, gets the princess load up with the Dark Goblin at the bridge, all taken off the board, and survives by what, like 30-something HP or 300 HP?
Yeah, it was like 27, 30 HP. And look, Ty, you're going by what AC was saying earlier, skating by on that one just barely.
Yeah.
Don't do that to me again, man. Don't make me nervous. I already have to cast a Morton game later today, which I know will end with 10 HP at some point. Give me a little breathing room here. And it's all about the spells. At no point did I see any errors in the troop placement. It all came down to, I think he missed like 4 or 5 spells here.
Yeah, and when you're playing against Log Bait, it's actually astonishing that he survived that game. You saw there at the very end a couple of misspells. The arrows miss, the snowball misses, the Electro Spirit doesn't get the value that you need, but still, the snowball plus Earthquake on defense on that right-hand side. Remember, if any of those spells are used correctly, then he can just drop an Earthquake on offense to ensure the victory, or he can drop another Hog Rider down to create a little bit more pressure so Sandbox can't keep doubling and tripling down. But as you said, the moment you start making those mistakes, and we're in triple elixir, those bait decks can destroy you in an instant.
They sure can. And I want to see now the other side of the coin, right? Sandbox has not lost a game. He is a rookie. He just lost one. How will he react mentally? I want to see what deck he comes out with. E-barbs are still in play. Mother Witch is still in play. And I think it's time to use it. Look, Dark Angel in the previous set, congratulations on the creativity. But when 2 cards are that strong, it's time to use them. This is CRL.
Yeah, and I think what you say is actually a pretty fascinating point as we get into this third game, is that the most powerful cards in the meta have not been used yet. So be looking out for maybe all 3. You know, maybe we'll see the Electro Giant as well in this matchup, but definitely the Mother Witch and the E-Barbs feel like they should be utilized by both of these players, or else it's kind of just a missed opportunity when you talk about strategy and, of course, decksmanship.
Yeah, I think it's always important to understand, look, there is nothing wrong with going meta. I understand for a lot of players, they like to be unpredictable, but you don't always have to be unpredictable when something's been working as well as it has been. And the win rate on Mother Witch, E-Barb's decks together is so high that I think it's time, you know, you sit down and you realize which one is best for me, which one is best for the matchup, because there are a lot of different versions, right? There are a lot of different archetypes. Just pick the one that you feel most comfortable with and actually use it.
Yeah, yesterday when we saw Top play the Mother Witch, he actually only played it once, and it was in a deck with the Elite Barbarians and the Mega Knight. That was that Piggy's deck, that Fireball Bait split lane pressure deck. And on the other side of it, with Sandbox, when you talk about him running that Mother Witch, he ran it once as well in the same deck that we were just talking about. The same E-Barbs, Mother Witch, Mega Knight, Royal Hogs deck. So both of them going to that one usage of those 2, let's say, powerful cards. We won't say OP.
Yeah, I don't think they're OP. I just think they're the best cards in this new meta. You know, a card doesn't necessarily have to be OP to be the best. It just fits really well with the decks that are being played right now. And the good thing that you do have on both sides is you should know not to run Graveyard, obviously, because Mother Witch is available on both sides. And I don't think a Graveyard deck has one when Mother Witch is available. But you do have to see the positive side. Bait was used, so you're not going to get too much value. I'm curious to see what we're going to see here. We know that every time we see Dark Prince, it's usually either Graveyard, E-Giant, and it could be that same. It is Graveyard, and Mother Witch maybe coming down.
Wow. No Mother Witch down.
Yeah, that's a big risk.
Yeah, I mean, look at the cards we're seeing here, Eric. We're seeing a lot of splash troops. We see the Baby Dragon, the Ice Wiz, the NATO, of course, to pull those together, and the Bomber rearing his head here in competitive play after the recent rework. What do you think about this matchup, and why does it seem that these players are reluctant to playing the 2 best cards in the meta?
I'm not really sure, but I'm telling you right now, he got away with one with this Graveyard, because if he did have Mother Witch, there was nothing he was going to be able to do to win this match. That we've seen it over and over again, and you know that it's a very big possibility. I don't know if Sandbox analysis was just very, very good and expected Todd not to use it, but this could still get very complicated. He needs to use that poison offensively every time, or that Bomber will get a lot of value. And also on defense, you know that his highest DPS dealer is the Mega Minion and the Musketeer, both of which get erased by that Lightning.
Yeah, that Lightning matchup with a Musketeer can be incredibly frustrating. There you go, Lightning up high on top of the Dark Prince and the Muskie. Now the Mega Minion comes out just as you called. Dark Prince charges on through, gets caught by that Ice Golem, but it's going to need a little bit more help as that Electro is still tanking. Dark Prince gets on tower.
It is on tower, but the biggest point that comes out of all of this is he's already on another offensive cycle. You did defend, you're still up, but look at this. He's back at another E-Giant, and you don't have a graveyard in hand to attack with because you need to defend this massive push, and now you can't block the Lightning with the Dark Prince because you needed to use it early. So it's getting more and more complicated as time goes by.
Yeah, this is giving me PTSD of many of my Electro Giant matchups where Musketeer is my highest damage dealing ranged card, and there you see just the overwhelm. That's going to be game there, just like that. Couple E-Giant pushes, one to start the change of momentum, one to close things out. Ta survives again and continues to run through this tournament in the winner's bracket. He might be skating by, Eric, but it sure is working.
Yeah, and you saw him kind of like fall over when he won the game, and I think he can't even believe it. He is in the CRL finals. He won the winners finals, and I think if we did predictions, if we had one of those brackets like you guys had last year where you had to predict everything, none of us would have hit this. And really, this was the first game that I could see out of top where I did not see mistakes on the spells or on anything, and you see how powerful he can be when he plays a very strong game.
A true Cinderella story comes into CRL finals in April as the 8th seed going up against the GOAT of the game in Morton. He takes him down in his first matchup, stays in that winner's bracket. And now, like we've said, anyone in the world can be here. Ta's next game is for a minimum of $10,000. This guy that we'd never heard of could be our newest champion.
I can't believe it, and I'm super excited for him, for what this format is, and for everyone at home that now can really, grasp the fact that I really do have a shot at CRL, because the previous months with Line, with Morton, with Mohammed, like, yeah, you say it's open to everyone, but look who keeps winning. Now you can't say anything. Now Ty is in the finals, no excuses.
Yeah, this is just absolutely brilliant little, run for this newcomer to the game. These two rookies both playing incredibly well, and we're going to see more of Sandbox. As we said, we can take a look at our bracket to kind of refresh the viewers at home with how this is working. And basically, like we said, this is double elimination. Every single person. Oh yeah, we got to talk decks first. I'm getting a little excited here. So let's talk about the decks here, Eric, and let's also talk about the fact that we didn't see Mother Witch. And I agree, you probably don't want to show it in game one because it does give away a lot of information. So we just went kind of old school meta here.
Yeah, we did, and it came down to this could have been a 3-0 technically for Ta, right? If he just made those micro adjustments, played a little bit more risky, more confident, he wasn't all that out of this game. He did not allow Sandbox to use that combination of the Magic Archer NATO very often. He just had one slight mistake. I do like the deck choices on both, like you said, not showing the Elite Barbarians and the Mother Witch early on, but I expected them not to show it to then use it later on, and they just weren't there.
Yeah, and as we go over to game number 2, or the two decks from both these guys in the second game, you'll see still no Mother Witch showing up. Hog Rider, triple spell, even though the spells were definitely underutilized by Ta, he still squeezes on by, or skates by, as AC said earlier, against this bait deck. Shocking that he was able to recover with the amount of misspells he had when facing this type of deck.
He was able to get 2 hogs onto tower that really saved him the game. He got around 600 damage from both of them, and if that would not have happened, he would not have been able to recover from that spell usage. A little bit of a risky deck choice from Sandbox. We have seen it work, but it's definitely not something that's very prevalent right now. The Infernal Tower, we know it's a very 50-50 type of structure building. You can either work very well or just be completely useless, and here I think it was just too expensive for what it was actually doing.
Yeah, too expensive, definitely. That's the biggest indicator when you see those hogs coming through and 3 cards drop defensively when it could have just been one Inferno Tower, one after the other as the elixir ticks in. So here we go to deck number 3 from both of these guys. Sandbox decides to go with Graveyard, which was a bit surprising considering the fact that we hadn't seen Mother Witch yet, but ends up working out kind of okay in the beginning. And then Ta just drops that Electro Giant down a couple times and walks away with a W. Talk me through this one.
If you're not going to use Mother Witch and you're not going to use Elite Barbarians, I like that you're using E-Giant. He went meta. It wasn't what we expected. And yeah, it has that slight variation with the bomber, but he understands this is what has been working. On the other side, we saw another risky deck choice from Sandbox. Could it have worked? Yes. It was just too much risk, in my opinion. The Elite Barbarians match up well against that deck, as well as the Mother Witch. And on top of that, the E-Giant. There's too many available options that go well against it. And I just think it could have been that deck choice that is the reason we're going to see him on this lower bracket.
Yeah, those E-Barbs would have been great to help take out that Electro Giant. So here we go, as you were just mentioning, the lower bracket. Morton and Schwarzen going to face off next here. Number 1 and number 2 on Grand Challenge cards 1, both of them in the 1.3 millions. Schwarzen just edging him out a little bit last night. And this is the journey so far for both of these guys. Schwarzen taking out Dark Angel, and of course, earlier on in the day, sorry about that, it's moving around there, is now facing off against Morton. This is going to be a pretty good matchup. These guys know each other pretty dang well, Eric.
Yes, and the fact that this is probably 1 and 2, not only Grand Challenges, but probably in Germany, right? For so long, we've said Morton and Sam, but I think at this point, Schwarzen is pretty much up there competing for that number 1 spot, especially in the recent months. What we've seen out of him has been very, very strong. These guys play the No-Till Worlds together on the same team, so you know they practice a lot. They know each other, and it's going to be a very, very big mind game. Will I go with my comfort and expect him to think that I'm going to switch it up, or will I actually switch it up expecting him to think that I am going to go comfort? It's a lot to go with here and a lot of analysis.
Morton at the bottom of our screen, Schwarzen at the top. Morton, our number 2 finisher last month, looking to take home that gold here in April.
And yeah, definitely he's been looking stronger, right? He's been looking stronger every match, in my opinion, Morton.
Yeah, he feels much more focused. He feels much more dialed in, today than what we saw from him yesterday. And honestly, Morton, though, has always been one of those guys that I know he doesn't like to play from behind, but he finds himself in that position and he really turns it up. It's almost like playoff and regular season basketball in his mind once he flips that switch.
It's that LeBron playoff mode that he gets into. But I think the biggest factor for Morton, the key to victory, if we want to talk about it, is the matchups. He's usually in bad matchups, and Rich said it today. He finally had 2 good matchups, and we saw how easy it was for him to take control of the match and really move on. So if he can continue to get matchups in his favor, he'll be in a very, very good spot.
Yeah, I mean, it's shocking what this guy has accomplished in his career, considering how many times he's been in situations with bad matchups, and yesterday I was saying, I believe it was Rich on broadcast, I was just like, he Mortoned his opponents, he came back from a bad matchup, being down, he outplays them in the end and ends up coming out on top. So I like what he's doing here in game number 1. I like that it's a little slower, a little more control. He's feeling out his opponent. Gonna be interested to see how he ends up actually taking this win, though. That mortar is gonna have to be used a good amount on defense.
I also like the fact that he didn't go minor straight off the rip, right? Schwarzen was not going to play a deck that's bad against it. There was just no way. I don't think anyone ever will, especially someone that you've practiced so much against. It's not the traditional. It is minor, but what I meant is like not the traditional Morton Wall Breakers minor deck. And I think it's very, very smart out of him. What I don't want to see here is that he strays away from the meta. Morton, a lot of the times, goes a little too comfort throughout the set. This time, he might make it work just on the Earthquake minor cycles and very defensive mortars. Like you said, it does deal well against those recruits, but he needs to be careful. Pushes like this could get scary.
Yeah, that flying machine does get on top of the Valkyrie Royal Delivery used on the opposite side to get some damage in. However, damage on both sides of the board. Minor having to be used defensively, which is not what Morton wants. 14-14 bottom right, 13-57 on the bottom left. And just like that, Morton finds himself in the deficit.
He needs to continue to pressure here, Schwarzen, because we know what Morton does in triple elixir, right? When we see minors here, it could get very, very tricky for him late on. And that's the reason why a lot of Morton's games go to that 10 HP. It ends up being minor cycles with 30 seconds left. He cycles 17 different minors on your tower, earthquakes, and then out of nowhere, he does 700 damage and you lose by very minimal HP. So he needs to continue to pressure.
Yeah, and I liked what Morton did there, catching that flying machine up high with his hunter. But you see now Schwarzen tripling down on that drop of the flying machine at the bridge. He's always going to want to take that mortar out of play to give his Hoggies a path on through, and it's going to be very difficult for Morton to take that flying machine out of contention every single time. And now you kind of see that coming through. 7-13 bottom left, 11-76 on the bottom right. Morton just having to spend an arm and a leg on every defense.
He's playing so smart, Schwarzen here. He's every time, if you see it, the side that he's most pressuring on and forcing that delivery on is the opposite side of the flying machine. So every flying machine is getting on tower or forcing an absurd amount of elixir to be used, and that's the reason he's able to really still have control of this game. But like I said, he needs to be very careful here. We know what Morton can do, and that mortar connection is huge.
Absolutely huge. Very healthy Valkyrie, very healthy Hunter coming across the bridge. Valkyrie actually being tanked for by the Hunter and the Miner. Valkyrie should be easy to clean up. 454 to 541. Valkyrie up high with the Ice Spirit. Everything dropped on top. Great job there with the delivery, taking out that group of everything. Royal Hogs, but mainly the flying machine.
It's crazy to see how Morton at the end of the match can be so powerful and so calculated in everything. And everything I said that Schwarzen was doing right, he did wrong on that last push. And it might be that desperation that Morton causes. He put the flying machine, he put the Hoggies all together, and he gave up so much delivery.
What a brilliant win for Morton and an incredibly demoralizing loss for Schwarzen. And I think you laid it out perfectly, Eric. You really did. It was exactly the thing that he started to do wrong at the end of the game. Was literally right after you'd said how great he was doing the entire time. Talk us through that just a little bit more. Those flying machines, man.
Yeah, the thing is, originally at the beginning of the game, you saw the recruits go split and then the Hoggies go on the recruit side. It would force the delivery, and the delivery really was the factor for that flying machine. If not, it would force a Hunter straight on, but the Hunter was also being used because one delivery is not enough for recruits and Hoggies. And then that flying machine was getting free value or extra value or even getting tower damage. Towards the end of the game, when it got closer and closer, he tried to force out a lot more damage. Schwarzen did, and he kept putting the flying machine along with his push and gave up all that Hunter and delivery value, and it could have cost him. It was one of the reasons it cost him. Obviously, Morton played it perfectly at the end, and that mortar hit definitely helps.
Yeah, shout out to the guys in the booth. Those are great pulls there for those replays, talking, showing everyone what exactly we were talking through. That royal delivery coming down on the right-hand side, I believe it was in like maybe the third of those replays that we saw. You saw how much Morton had to spend with that miner coming in very late on defense. At that same moment, the flying machine breaks through the left-hand side. Schwarzen was doing something that was working the entire time, Eric, and he stopped doing it at the most crucial part of the game. This is something that you and I have talked about a lot this week, being on camera, casting games every single day. There's this crazy thing that happens to players at any level, obviously now that we're at the highest level, where they stop doing what's working because they start to panic.
Yeah, you have to maintain control at all times. And Morton going wall breakers now, it's okay. You know you have a one-game lead here. It is riskier, but I do like that he didn't use it the first game, right? Because if he used that minor wall breakers deck the first game, there was no shot it was getting there. With the cage, with the recruits, with the zappies, everything would have been a pain for him. So he played it smart, went mortar, which we haven't seen that much out of him. And that's the optimal E-Wiz placement. For a lot of people that are spectating right now, that might allow too much damage when there is that goblin barrel on tower. You want to place it over to one of the sides and it will only get one hit. Very important that you watch also these games to learn.
Yeah, that's right. And here we go. Going to be wall breakers plus bait. A missed log there, looking for something to come on top of that princess. And now Sparky working its way across the bridge. We know that the skeletons are back in cycle. Probably going to go for a surround there. No zap loaded by Schwarzen because he just played that card, and honestly, it would be a little bit risky to bust that out this early in the game.
Yeah, I don't think you want to take the risk, and the Dark Prince moving back just enough for that Dark Goblin to get a lot of damage. It's still not game over though. Yes, he has a nice lead here, but one big Sparky push with these elite barbarians could get very, very tricky for Morton with all those squishy troops.
Yeah, very fortunate matchup here for Schwarzen in that sense. When you talk about going down that much early on, this is definitely one deck that can scream back into the game. And there you see a Rage coming in to try to make all things work out here for the top of our screen.
Yeah, and that's a lot of damage on the screen. Good kite on with the wall breakers to get the elite barbarian off the tower, because if that elite barbarian would have come on the tower with him, that would have been with a giant, that would have been game over most likely. One tower down and you're playing bait is not where you want to be, and he needs to defend this with everything he can, and then E-Wiz locks on for free.
Yeah, that's tough right there. And I was just going to kind of ask you, Eric, what it's like when you go into a two-tower game against this deck. I mean, I already basically know, but it's definitely not a situation that Morton wants to be in. You can see him putting some pressure on the opposite lane here. Wallbreaker's both going to connect. A little surprised that Schwarzen allowed that much damage to come in, thinking that he would know that this has to go to a two-tower game as well.
I don't know if he's playing the I can defend one more time and actually win this game in a one-tower encounter here for Schwarzen, but allowing that will definitely put him in the game, will definitely give Morton a huge advantage when it comes down to the end of this game if it does go to 2 towers, because you just gave up a free 800 damage that really could have been defended.
Log coming in low here to make sure no damage comes in. 531 remaining. Goblin Barrel in on the tower. Damage is going to come in, and you know that rocket is in cycle. Tower goes down. Morton doesn't even need to spend it. And I feel like that game just left, like Schwarzen, he blinked and it was gone. The set's over.
He played it so well at the beginning, and at the end, you know there's rocket in here in this deck. Don't play that Sparky. You're just going to give him too much value. I think he was doing the right plays early on. Yes, it is a tough matchup because of the rocket, but you saw how much damage he got from that one push with the Goblin Giant and the Elite Barbarians raged up. I think it's time to recognize, how am I going to get damage? Okay, let me replicate this. And also, I don't have that many spells, obviously, for all the Goblin Barrels. I need to always have that E-Wiz cycle or that Dark Prince. He got caught off guard twice with it, and that's the reason why Morton is considered by a lot of people the best in the world. He recognizes every single possibility, and that kite right there might have saved him the game as well.
Just a brilliant kite there. Last second it could be played. Lowest tile off to the right. Perfect timing from Morton, which is exactly what you'd expect. Goblin Giant working down the lane, raged up. It would have taken that tower, but Eric, just not enough time left in the tank there for Schwarzen. So we are going to say goodbye to him and this competition. A pretty great job, though, when you talk about what he gets when you're walking away from this. $4 grand is not too bad.
Definitely better than my weekend. No, but congratulations to Schwarzen. Really, he's playing very well. And at the end of the day, this format is all about consistency. How many times can you make it back here? You don't need to win every time you make it back here. You need to accumulate those points, because yes, 4,000 is great, but that world finals, the possibility of becoming the world champion, we know what it means to everyone. I was there, and it was definitely something that I've always wanted. And I know Schwarzen wants to compete for that. Yes, it is tough to lose, but look, you need to go back and you need to understand, I got a lot of points. I did make some money. Let me prepare for next month and let me get back here.
And might as well take a page out of his opponent's book to add to that note. Morton is one of the guys that's lost in some of the highest situations in the game, the largest situations that we've ever been placed in as a Clash Royale player, and he always bounces back. So hopefully we'll see more of Schwarzen down the line. An incredible performance here this month. You can see this first deck matchup. It felt fine. It felt like he was in a very good position. You called the perfect play-by-play, saying that all he needs to do is keep splitting those recruits, get the hogs down in the lane, the opposite of the flying machine, and make Morton figure out how to split his troops so much that he can create very little offense. But when the pedal hit the metal, when it really came time to do that, Schwarzen just kind of lost sight of the game.
And we've seen it time after time, right? That flying machine is just as important as any troop in the game when your opponent doesn't have a fireball or a poison. That is your key to victory. Can you protect it? Can you force out extra defense? And he was doing that all game until the end. If you're playing flying machine decks, you need to identify what counters your opponent has for it. And if there is no direct counter, that is what you need to protect. It's the same thing as we've seen in princess decks, right? If there is no log, if there is no arrows, that is what you need to protect. And at the end, it just got away from him.
Speaking of those princesses, here we go. One of the best ever to play that little 3 elixired lady is Morton. Always happy to see him play bait. Bit different here. We're going to go wall breakers bait with the E-Barbs, very much the new meta that is 2021 in April. On the other side of it, we see Schwarzen playing this, this is a good deck. This is a very popular deck right now. It's been proving to be very strong. It just did not have the spell power that he needed, and he was not patient enough with his elixir in single.
And it's always unfortunate when you have Sparky and they have Rocket. It is that one thing you don't want to see. But he was able to get himself in the match. He just wasn't able to continue to put the right pressure on. He tried a couple different attacks. They didn't really work out. And what I do want to touch on here from Morton is the fact that we're used to seeing him play Miner's wall breakers. He did play Miner and he did play wall breaker, but this this time he decided to split them up, and I really like that. He's giving his opponents different looks at different things, and it might be the reason why he's been looking a lot stronger. His deck choices have been a lot better.
Yeah, I think that's a really, really solid point that you make there. A little bit less predictable, changing things up from what you'd expect out of Morton. So here we go. Our semi-finals coming from the lower bracket. Sandbox, who finds his very first loss today here from Ta, who has been immaculate through this entire tournament. That rookie is really putting everyone else on watch, on notice. Morton, our number 2 last month. Will he end in number 2 again? Will it be number 3, or will he finally take home that gold here in CRL April? We'll have to find out over these next 2 matches.
All I want to say is, Sandbox, good luck, because if Morton keeps getting better every match, which he has, it is not someone you want to play. And I know no one asked me for a prediction, but I'm telling you right now, if Morton gets to that final and he's won 3 matches in a row in the fashion that he has, there's no stopping him. I think this might be his final, so watch out. Ta, you're rooting for Sandbox at this point.
So there you go. You hear it from EV7 himself, our former world champion coach. Before we hop into some more action, let's check out a cool segment here called Can It Clash between Airsurfer and Wallace, where they're using some community submitted decks as well as some old decks from competition.
Hey everyone, I'm Eric, EV7, and today I am bringing you Can It Clash. 2 of your favorite CRL pros are about to go head to head in a very unique best of 3. Right before we get into the action, I think it's important for you guys to know who's playing. Airsurfer just finished placing top 3 in the CRL monthly finals, and on the other side we have Wallace. Wallace was someone that came into the league last season as a rookie, ended up being a world finalist, so I'm excited to see a veteran and someone that's more of a rookie go at it in this format. For the first match, they will be using 2 decks that I chose. Nice Dark Prince here to take care of the Hoggies, and he takes over 400 damage on one single Hoggies push. He wants this to end as soon as possible, because if this gets into triple elixir, I don't see how Airsurfer can stop any of the pushes. And that Electro Giant is also disappearing quite quickly to the Elite Barbarians, another card that we weren't used to seeing very often. But the splash of the Baby Dragon, the splash of the Ice Wizard, and absolutely everything that gets hit by the E-Giant as well evaporates. In the second match, we actually asked them, what are your favorite decks? But they didn't know we were going to swap them, so they will be playing each other's favorite decks. As he has the Fireball Skellies, which is not a bad defense, but that is 2 hits. The X-Bow also evaporates to the Valk because the defense was forced. And this is just being played perfectly by Airsurfer. Everything is going according to plan. That Earthquake onto the Infernal Tower will make sure it's gone, but more importantly, he predicted that Mega Minion with his bats, which kept the Musketeer alive, and is going to force another defense on the right hand side. These are each other's favorite decks, so to be able to play your opponent's favorite deck this well definitely proves something about Airsurfer. Inferno goes down. That's not going to be enough, and the Knight actually pushes the Hog onto the left of the tower so it doesn't get distracted. Everything is going wrong for Wallace, or everything is going right for Airsurfer. And in the third match, they finally got to choose their own decks, but there's a catch. They have to be either used in the previous CRL monthly qualifiers or in the previous CRL finals. Go game number 3. Who is going to take the first ever Can It Clash? Right now, he did get a miner on tower, so it is a little bit of damage, and he was able to defend this fairly easily. He does. There's the miner, and now Wallace knows there is no attack coming. Let me go Balloon, let me go Lumberjack, and that left side has a lot of troops for that Infernal Tower to deal with, and that is about 700 damage taken. The Loon, there it is. Snowball coming in, and just one tiny bit of health is what saves Airsurfer from taking a balloon hit on the left side. And here we go. Hit from the Loon, forces out a delivery again out of Airsurfer, and I don't think he's even going to be able to get a miner in here, a miner push, because he knows that he will not be able to defend. But it is raged up. That Inferno Dragon does enough as well. It forces out a second Inferno Dragon. To catch all the action of this Can It Clash episode, make sure to check us out on YouTube on Clash Royale Esports.
Well, Andrew, I think the answer is that, yes, it can clash. And that's the question we all had on our minds. Much more important than the next upcoming question, which is, Will Morton get past Sandbox, or will Sandbox rebound from being perfect on the tournament and then falling to, again, the curse of matchup here in some very wild games against Ta?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, Sandbox, we finally saw that he is human. He can lose a game, and apparently he can lose an entire set to Ta. And Morton, on the other side of it, feels like he's evolving as he goes through each set. He's finally becoming into final Morton form, which, as Eric was saying, if you're Ta, you want Sandbox to win this set, because if Morton's firing on all cylinders and he's angry, that is not a guy that you want to play against when all the money is on the line. And by the way, Rich, when we talk about money, there's only 3 players left and $36,000 to give out.
Yeah, this is going to be wild. And this is one of those ones, look, you think about the stakes in every single matchup at this point, right? So in this one, the loser takes home $6,000. This is a $4,000 match because the winner takes home at least 10, if not 20, going on to that overall grand final. Of course, no matter who wins here, you have to win 3 to be this monthly champion. You have to win here, and then you have to beat Ta twice. So Ta is now sitting in a pretty good spot right now, a hard spot to dethrone, but you have 2 guys who are completely capable of doing it.
It's crazy. When I first started casting Clash and like looking at double elimination brackets, it feels like the favor is so heavily in the person in the winner's bracket. But you think about the amount of work that they had to put in along the way, and the fact that they haven't dropped 1 set over 2 days of competition at the highest level in the world. Yeah, they deserve that 2 losses before they're getting kicked out of the tournament.
And Morton here, seeing Sandbox open up with Lava Hound and goes, oh, well, you're in a Lava first play in CRL, let me punish you. But Sandbox, maybe a bit smarter than your average Classic Challenge player, did have the Skarmy ready, knew he had defensive answers, and maybe that Inferno Dragon was in cycle as well. So goes with what appears to be the risky open, but had both of his defensive responses ready to rock.
Yeah, and I like Sandbox kind of doubling down on this offensive push. He gets the fireball on top of the Zappies, and now those lava pups, with the help of that miner, actually getting a lot of damage in. Morton has to triple drop here when you talk about all things spent just to defend, and he takes a boatload of damage early on, Rich.
But that's going to be some nice E-Barb connection the opposite direction, so we are actually pretty close. Dual lane damage for both players. The lead at the moment for Sandbox, but Morton again pressures, and I don't know, there we go. The zap does come in. He does have an answer for that Skarmy.
I was going to say, Morton, if he's going to go back that aggressive on offense, he has to have a response to the Skarmy. He's just too good at this game to go right back into a Royal Hogs push into a Skarmy for a -2 trade. I love what he did there. I like the damage, but he clearly has a lot going on in his mind over there in Germany.
I wonder who Morton's talking to right now, because it feels like he's looking at somebody being like, what the heck am I looking at?
Yeah, I mean, is Sam still in the house with him there? I know you know that better than I do.
Yeah, I'm actually not sure if Sam and Morton are still bunked up at the moment, but wouldn't be totally surprising to see the duo and close friends still working together.
High Zappies here. Nice drop there. Misses the mother... No, he got the Mother Witch. He got the Mother Witch and the Flying Machine. A rare mistake for Morton to put both of those in spell range.
Yeah, I mean, he was trying to split. He had the Flying Machine, the Mother Witch, and the Zap. He was trying to get enough spread out to not give too much fireball value, but no matter what, it was sort of you know, rocking a hard play situation for him. And at the moment, it is Sandbox with a nice bit of elixir on the board and the damage lead, 843 to 622, as we are approaching 30 seconds left in regulation.
Sandbox doing such a great job picking and choosing where to get that fireball down. You think the Mother Witch being in hand, the Royal Piggies there with Skarmy as a response, that there'd be at least one moment for Morton to populate this map with those piggies, but he just has not been able to do it with the way that Sandbox is playing. I absolutely love what we're seeing out of the Tribe representative in this matchup so far.
Fireballs both directions, I believe. There should be one coming in from Morton here in a moment, and there you go, does throw it the opposite way. 3:15 remaining. E-Bar pressure right now from Sandbox right at the bridge. Morton responds with a pair of Elite Barbarians in kind, but that zap, a great reset there by Sandbox, and that's going to be a GG. Well played. Sandbox takes game number 1 in our lower bracket final.
I mean, the aggression, the audacity from the rookie to put Morton on watch. That was some beautiful gameplay from Sandbox, and it was unrelenting, my man. There was one moment there where the Skarmy came down and Morton got some damage in with the zap. I think they probably both kind of anticipated something like that to happen, but after that moment, it was all Sandbox for the rest of this few minutes.
And you see here the defense out of Morton having to spend a lot there to stay in it, but then it does turn into a pretty solid counter push and gets quite a lot of damage. But, I mean, I think the story of this match, more than anything, Andrew, was the Skeleton Army. The way it defended against the Royal Hogs, the way it defended it against Mega Knight. The Skeleton Army, which is often thought of as a below 6K card, if you will, showing its face a lot here this weekend to some pretty solid success.
Yeah, and one of the things we were talking about in that matchup was the fact that that Skarmy was used so intelligently by Sandbox. Morton was never able to get a lot out of his Mother Witch, which is, honestly, when she is not spawning pigs, she is a detriment to your deck. Having her as one of your 8 cards in rotation, if you don't get any piggies on the board, that's a problem. And Sandbox made sure that that did not happen. And of course, he also, Sandbox, landed some brilliant fireballs throughout, where Morton just had a really difficult time splitting up his troops and taking care of that Inferno Dragon. The protection on the Inferno was really nice.
Well, what an interesting Lava Miner variation, right? Especially with the Skeleton Army there, as opposed to 2 more common cards in the Guards and the Barbarians. So a lot of interesting challenges for Morton in that one. Sandbox looking like he's rebounding quite nicely from that rough outing in the winner's bracket final. So here we go. Game number 2 on its way. Sandbox with a $10,000 match point.
And no surprise here from Morton, seeing Miner come out in an elimination game. We don't know exactly which variant of it, but it is his favorite card, so might as well play it.
Wondering if he's going Lava Miner here, seeing the Baby Dragon.
And Balloon comes down here on the left-hand lane. Naked Balloon met with a Mother Witch. She's not your highest damage-dealing card, but Snowball is out of cycle, so Morton goes for it.
And does spend the arrows there to clean things up. Morton now trying to slow things down the opposite direction. No Fireball for Morton in this one. Did have it in last game, so great time to use the Mother Witch, knowing that the #1 most direct counter is not going to be in the game.
Yeah, and Sandbox also has the freedom to use a lot of bait cards throughout, like that Night Witch coming down, right? Night Witch, a card that's a lot harder to pull the trigger on when Mother Witch can come into play. Doesn't have to worry about it anymore. It was useless in game #1. Now, these types of cards, these spawning buildings, units, whatever, what have you, can all be used by Sandbox.
We're about to find out there's another CWA deck here, a double Witch deck with Mega Knight. Okay, we're seeing everything.
Yeah, Double Witch with Mega Knight was really popular a while ago with regular Witch when she got super buffed. It was regular Mega Witch with the Night Witch and Mega Knight, and that obviously fell out of contention very quickly as that Witch received a nerf. And, this is something new. I like it.
And here we go. Decent little counter push here. I believe the Balloon's going to get in front of the Giant Skeleton, though, which actually might work out a little bit in Morton's favor. And there you go. NATO pulls all that in. Balloon does connect. Huge, huge connection here for the German as he takes the lead in our way to double elixir.
Yeah, somehow that Giant Skeleton sneaks in front of the Balloon, Rich, and it does go down. Like you said, cleans everything out of the way. He does a great job with the NATO there. Balloon cruises on through, gets 1 drop in, and this game is back in favor of the German.
Interesting to see this Miner Loon Giant Skeleton deck that has been very popular in the previous meta, but obviously Giant Skeleton and Bomb Tower both taking pretty big nerfs. Working so far well here for Morton as he has the lead, 30 seconds left. And regulation now switching lanes as the SK Gaming player.
Yeah, Morton always happy to switch lanes, but as we get into double and deeper into triple elixir, most importantly, it's going to be about Morton creating a lot of damage here early on. And those balloon death damages, while it is damage, it's just not quite as substantial as it used to be.
And Morton here does set up on the inside on defense, but Sandbox able to take advantage and get a very nice lead here, 775. With this Mega Knight Graveyard deck, Miner goes into the front, arrows in response here, high on the Balloon, and that Baby Dragon. NATO pulls all that together for the Baby Dragon.
NATO.
Does the Balloon hit? And it does.
What a great NATO, just creating enough time, not getting those units off of the board. It was a complete sell-out move, which you heard Eric talk about a little bit before. If you want to be the best in the world, you got to gamble just a little bit. And Morton knew right then and there, if this NATO doesn't work, I lose the game. But I'm going to lose the game either way, so I need to make something happen. Beautiful execution there.
put it all right together for that baby dragon, right? And kind of all going very classic with that idea. NATO these days, you don't see NATO used as much as it once was to group for a baby dragon Ice Wiz combination. And right, that was for a long time the way that those two cards worked. It was Ice Wiz, NATO, baby dragon everywhere, and here we see a classic play work out really well for Morton.
Yeah, you throw the giant skeleton bomb in there, even though it doesn't do as much damage as before, and that is just a beautiful defensive sequence, synergy, trilogy, quad, whatever you want to call it. I think it's 4 cards, so there's a different word for that. But we talk about this defense here. This was the moment where it felt like Morton might be slipping out of the game. You saw him switch the right-hand lane, get a balloon drop in, and then we see this brilliant tornado just to create space. That's just understanding interactions at the most micro of levels. You know exactly what that tornado is going to do, pulling those units far enough away, and he evens this up in our lower bracket finals.
Well, that defensive sequence, Andrew, was really, really nice out of Morton, right? The bomb tower to pull the Mega Knight, then 2 Ice Wizards to slow and hold it in position, Baby Dragon on the graveyard, and a very, very well-timed Bar Barrel to clean up the GY and pick up some of those Mega Minion swipes, which, of course, were so detrimental to Morton just last month. So a very nice sequence there. We've talked about it before a lot. Morton's at his best when defending in a pressure moment. We've seen that since 2018. Good defenses in moments where his opponent probably thinks that he has him caught. And that's vintage Morton Clash Royale.
Yeah, you know, and I think to add to that, Rich, it almost feels like sometimes Morton might need to slow things down early on. It feels crazy to me that I would even have any advice to provide for Morton. But if you think about how regularly he comes back from situations he finds himself in late game, I feel like a big part of that, or it's attributed to maybe just getting a little over-aggressive early on.
Maybe. And you talk about, we talk about the decks today. We just saw one sort of throwback deck from the meta, and now we're going even further back. Hog Rider, Mini P.E.K.K.A, Firecracker. I mean, this is going back to, I feel like 2019 or early 2020 meta for Morton.
So here we go. 6 Elixir in hand to defend. He decides to sell out on the right-hand side. Hog plus Bats plus Firecracker. Beautiful NATO there, which honestly Morton should have probably thought about, knowing that he was going up against Electro Giant, giving a lot of value there. But a lot of damage in on both sides of the board. Morton definitely walking away with a bloodied chin, though, from this first exchange.
Yeah, Sandbox did a good job there. You know, typically you think Electro Giant early in a game played that aggressively. A bridge Electro Giant might be a bad idea, but here instead recognized that the best counters were out of cycle and went ahead and pressured, and now it's a nice advantage for the South Korean.
Yeah, this is going to be a very, very difficult climb back for Morton. I don't know how he's going to do it, because once this goes into a 2-tower game, if he can even extend it that far, there's just so many ways to deal with his biggest threats. And there's a lot of defense and, you know, the Goblin Cage, the NATO, the Ice Wizard to keep that Hog at bay. It's going to be a very difficult uphill climb.
And a nice lightning there from Sandbox, just putting more pressure onto that King Tower. Knew he had the NATO in cycle, and second time here that Sandbox has made an aggressive play, but known he had the defensive tools to not give up anything too significant.
I like this Firecracker from Morton, just going to help even things a bit. Baits out that Bar Barrel from Sandbox, making him spend just a little bit more. Now Electro Giant sets up in the weak lane, and Morton calls good game. He knows exactly what his fate is. There is no way to break through on this right-hand side, Rich.
Yeah, I mean, it looks like he's just going to have to just try to get some spell cycle to extend the game a little bit longer. Sets up on defense, but again, the only really great defensive call he has here against that Electro Giant is that Mini P.E.K.K.A that's not going to stay on the board very long. Back to another Mini P.E.K.K.A here, 15 seconds left. This right-hand tower of Sandbox is going to fall. The question is there anything Morton can do to stay in this one?
Yeah, I mean, it feels almost impossible. Sandbox can just kind of reset here with the Electro Giant in the pocket, get some pressure in. Log's going to come down just in time. No, it does not.
What?
A second late. Either way, I felt like that game was gone. And Morton, second place in March, going to be third place here in April.
Look, who says what would have happened next? You have a half-health Electro Giant. You have a pretty tough situation defensively. I am absolutely shocked that Morton mistimed that and didn't get that tower down on the right-hand side.
Yeah, it does leave you a little shook when you watch one of the best, if not the best in the world, miss the timing on a log. But it does happen, apparently, and we see right here early on, you know, that quick tower trade, or what was it supposed to be a tower trade in Morton's mind. He sells out with the push on the right. A great NATO comes in from Sandbox, and here we see great defense at the end. Morton makes it very, very close, as you were just saying, Rich. Maybe that tower does end up going down, but he finds himself in a bit of an elixir pit if we were to go to a 2-tower game.
Yeah, I'm just surprised. I mean, I understand it's 2 elixir versus 1, but why aren't you EQing there at the very minimum? Morton there, a little frustrated with himself, obviously. Look, Sandbox did something really, really well for both of his wins. Is he set traps that he thought Morton would go for when he knew he had defensive tools for it. Really, really great gameplay here by Sandbox. Tough situation for Morton, but in the end, no matter what, he will be the overall global points leader. He will be #1 in the world going towards our finals after this weekend, but just maybe not as much of a #1 as he had hoped.
Yeah, and it's tough because you don't really ever want to pick apart the game that Morton plays. He's just too good to even think that you have much to offer. You see this first game, and he plays something much heavier than we're used to seeing him play, but he's also going up against Lava Hound, and that skeleton army made it very, very difficult for his Royal Hogs to come and create any sort of damage. But I do like that he slowed things down a little bit here in game #1 when you talk about deck choice.
Well, interesting one here for Sandbox. You know, usually this deck might have a, you're talking about maybe a Goblin Cage, you're talking about guards or barbs, but you see the Elite Barbarians in for Barbarians, and then rather than a building, the Skarmy. Yeah. And it ended up being a really great choice for him. Phenomenal against those Royal Hogs. Worked against the Mega Knight at one point. This was some smart decksmanship, to use your word, out of Sandbox in game 1.
Yeah, and you kind of hope that you'd see a little bit more out of Morton's Mother Witch in game #1 when you see this matchup with the pups, with the Skeleton Dragons being soft, and of course the Skarmy, which is just a feast for the Mother Witch, but it just didn't happen. Game #2, we saw Morton do what Morton does, which was, kind of casually switch lanes to create a lot of pressure, make your opponent make mistakes, and steal the game in the final moments. Really, really nice stuff here from Morton. And again, a little slower than what we traditionally see out of him. I mean, that last deck we saw, I think, was a 2.6 cycle. This one's still a little heavier.
Well, this was smart here out of the German to not go with what we would have might expect. He knew Mother Witch was still in the game, and look at what he ran into. Ran into Mother Witch, ran into a double small spell here with the arrows and Snowball. Anything that Morton's known for running in that bait variant, Sandbox would have countered here. So this was a great deck choice from Sandbox because Morton's been going small in game 1 and game 2 pretty consistently. So Sandbox with a smart deck choice didn't pay off, and then goes game #3 with this Electro Giant, and the aggressive play early on just shut this entire game down.
It did. And one thing, though, before the play even really got into the action, Rich, was that you were looking at this deck that Morton ran, and you were kind of surprised to see it come out. And that's a sentiment that's been echoed numerous times this weekend, I believe, from all 4 of us, which is just, it's a little surprising when you see this guy going more comfort than meta regularly.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know how much Morton ever ran that as a ladder deck or where that choice came from, but it's certainly one of those ones where I think I pushed that deck on ladder back in February of last year. So it's kind of curious to see Firecracker specifically in gameplay right now, but that's the past. Here's the future. And the future is 2 rookies as our monthly championship, Ta and Sandbox, one completely unknown player. And the other player, Sandbox, with 3 top 10 finishes on ladder, has been a good player for a long time. And now it's going to be a question. Do we have a complete unknown as our April champion, or do we have a well-established rookie taking home that 20K?
Yeah, one guy walks away with 10K and 70 points. The other guy walks away with 20K and 100 points. Will it be the Japanese representative Ta, the rookie, or will it be Sandbox from South Korea representing Tribe? Both of these guys, incredible players. I know we have to give our predictions, and I hate having to give predictions because it stresses me out so much. You're up first. What do you got?
Man, this is so hard. I mean, look, if this were only one BO3, I would say Sandbox, no question. If we're just talking about one, yeah, but Sandbox has to win twice. So I'm going to say, can we predict just the first one?
Yes, sure.
'Cause I'll predict the first one for Sandbox, and then I don't know what happens in the second one.
Okay, I think I'm just going to go Ta. I'm just going to go Ta straight up. I don't know how he's done it. We've called it skating by, we've called it luck, we've called it whatever, but it's been working. I think it works one more time here in our grand finals.
You might be right. You might be right. There might be magic here. And all you guys watching at home, this is what you're talking. This is what we're talking about with this new format. Literally anyone can be playing for a monthly championship, for spots in World Finals, for 20K. And yeah, Andrew's pointing
Who
at
is
anyone. No idea. He might be Batman at this point. No clue who Ta is, but everyone will know now. Ta, with a chance, no matter what, he will be top 2. But let's talk about Sandbox for a second, Andrew. Sandbox came into this weekend in a top 32 position, number 28 overall. Sandbox came in already positioned to be a contender for World Finals, to be in that, at least the play-in portion, if not the actual qualifying portion. With his performance over this weekend, he's guaranteed to be top 24 for the moment, which is an automatic qualifying spot for World Finals if he can hold that through to the end of the season.
I feel like if Sandbox does anything other than stop playing, we'll see him at World Finals. The gameplay we've seen from him is so incredible. It's so top tier. He seems so calculated. He's versatile in his deck choice, just like with what we're seeing out of Ta. If both of these guys stay consistent through 2021, even without ever winning a competition, I think we see both of them in World Finals. Their gameplay has been so stellar, it would seem shocking to see either of them fall off that drastically before the end of the year.
Well, keep in mind also, this is not Sandbox's first time making it deep in a monthly final. He's made top 32 before, right? So that alone is a very difficult accomplishment. You add that in with he has multiple top 10 finishes in previous years on ladder. If he can replicate that just a couple of times over the course of this next season, over these next few months, yeah, that's a nice walk your way into World Finals, unless some other players completely go off. But right now, Sandbox looking like an end of the year contender. The real question on the other side of it is this going to be Ta's big moment? Is this, he makes it to the championship, maybe even wins today? The question that I have is, do we see Ta back here again? And, you know, I think that one thing we've seen today is some misspells, some rookie mistakes. The question is, can he clean those up and get himself back here again? Or is this going to be the one-hit wonder, if you say it that way?
So I think to answer that, if Ta wins in this first set and just takes the championship, I actually worry a little bit more about his future, if that makes sense. I think he takes home the money. I think people are happy about what he does, but I wonder how much he stays in the game. Having that chip on your shoulder is a really important thing, right? If he loses in the grand finals twice in a row, I think we'll see Ta at the World Finals. I think he'll be angry. I think he'll come back. I think he'll study the mistakes that he made. I think he'll hit the grind. That's what I want to see out of him, because he needs to win this in this opening set, Rich. Sandbox is too methodical. He's too calculated. He's too calm. We've seen Ta's nerves get to him. So I think for him to be the best by the end of the year, he actually loses in the or in these finals. I know that's weird. I know it sounds backwards, but sometimes you got to lose to be the best.
I'm going to take the opposite tack here on this one, Andrew. I think that Ta needs the confidence boost, right? I think that if he gets clapped here, that he goes, well, that was fun, and then keeps playing Clash Royale the way that he has. But if he does win this, he might get that oh, I believe I can. I know I can sort of thing. So, you know what? Either way, one of us will be right and one of us will be wrong. Who knows? But we're going to see a pretty wild final here. Ta going to be, again, having 2 chances. Remember, this is double elimination. He hasn't lost yet in this bracket. So that's the big story. I think that's the most important story of this one, right? Is that Sandbox is, without question, on paper, the better player. And we saw the first time that they met. Remember, we're going to see possibly 3 BO3s between these 2 players if we go the whole way. The first time they met, you saw that double bait matchup, the number of missed spells, missed arrows out of Ta, but just a rough matchup. I think that's a big question here, is can the decision-making from Sandbox at least get it to like a 60-40, 70-30, as opposed to some matchups like that when we're, even with mistakes like that, Ta's able to come back and win.
Yeah, and you wonder, with that many mistakes, what does that mean for Sandbox's gameplay, right? Why was he not able to capitalize on that many mistakes when you're playing bait against those 2 spells, right? It feels like he should have been able to run away with that one, but Ta somehow stays alive. And, you know, for you guys that were wondering what the holdup is, I saw someone asking earlier in the YouTube chat if you get to change decks between BO3s. Yes, you do, and that's actually what we were waiting on. We wanted to make sure the decks were 100% correct. The 3 decks submitted from both of these guys, or 4 decks submitted, excuse me, from both of these players without repeating any one card, and they were changing it up before they come into the grand final. So here we go. Sandbox, top of your screen, technically the underdog coming into this matchup against Ta, who has not yet lost a set. Both rookies battling it out for $20,000.
Not to mention placement, Andrew, coming into this weekend, Ta number 28, as I said, overall on the global leaderboard. I mean, Sandbox number 28, Ta 94th on the overall leaderboard. So a win here would certainly vault him way up in those numbers. Came in with 115 points. You know, you add another 100 on top of that, that would be absolutely massive.
So we see here cheap cards coming out from Ta at the bottom of your screen. Sandbox very happy to just sit back and let him spend and feel him out. You see a Miner going into that left-hand side, caught by a bowler who we talked about yesterday. He seems to be back just a bit.
Yeah, I mean, Bowler's been in Graveyard Freeze and Balloon Freeze as of late. Started really coming back a bit more in the previous meta and still sticking around here. And I believe that Sandbox has run variations of this a couple of times this weekend.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, the bowler with what's in the meta right now, you talk about that Mother Witch, you talk about the E-Barbs, you talk about the Royal Hogs, he's really a brilliant response to all of them and making an even or positive trade in some situations.
So here we go, set up on the left-hand side, Double Dragon plus Ice Wiz, E-Wiz, and the Knight at the bridge right now for Ta. And just playing very, very defensive right now is the Japanese pro.
Yeah, I mean, I'm wondering if he's just going to go straight up with just Miner Poison here, waiting to see what that last card is.
Final minute, double elixir on its way, and Miner to the opposite side here, going to the safe spot one more time is Ta. Inferno Dragon in response. Not a real necessary response there from Sandbox, but will create some dual lane pressure, and there's the NATO to put a lot together for that bowl.
The one thing that I don't love about this deck choice, Rich, is it's really, really unforgiving from Ta. If you make any mistakes defensively and you have to overspend at all, it's very, very difficult for you to recover because the only damage you're going to get coming in is off of minor chip damage. So even something like this is going to be incredibly substantial and difficult to come back from.
Yeah, it's interesting. You know, Ta, I'm kind of surprised maybe a bit with Ta playing decks that have a lot of micro in them, considering some of the micro mistakes that we've seen so far this weekend out of Ta, but decides to go with a deck that's cycle. It really depends on proper placement, as opposed to something a little bit slower, a little heavier, that's more about decision making.
Yeah, I mean, I might get grilled for it, but at this point, honestly, you have to be so S tier to run minor control at CRL that almost no one can do it. And even in the past, right? We talk seasons and seasons in the past. You talk about someone like B-Rad, you talk about Morton, you talk about Surgical Goblin. Even in situations where they've played it in the past, you're just like, I just don't know if this is the best choice.
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned one in particular, B-Rad, probably the, you talk about career-wise, the #1 or at least most famous minor control player of all time. And I don't know if he was in CRL today, I don't know if he would run minor control. He might do it just for the content, but it's definitely one of those ones that that can struggle. Of course, does have some strength right now. I think this is a better deck for ladder right now than it is for competitive, than it is for these dual mode games.
I mean, why haven't we seen Expo? It's dominating ladder, it's dominating grand challenges. There's a reason why. And when you talk about interactions and making mistakes, Expo is pretty unforgiving at this level. Whereas on ladder and in grand challenges, you're not going to run into the best players in the world every single game. Which, when you look at this on paper, this is going to look like a snooze fest for Sandbox, even though it was 5 minutes of highly contested gameplay coming out of Ta.
Miner goes in on the front-hand side, and a defensive freeze out of Sandbox. Just knows he's way ahead, not even worried about offense right now. It's just, you're not going to chip your way through. I'm not going to give you an opening. Very, very smart and calculated play by Sandbox here in game #1.
Yep, he's just going to sit back here for the next 12 seconds, enjoy this easy W, and that's exactly what he needed to do. I mean, maybe Ta goes for a deck that he doesn't want to run in the Super Grand Finals, right? He goes for something to kind of feel out his opponent, see what Sandbox wants to run here in game 1 of their second set, and maybe thinking ahead. But I think you take the lead that you have and you try to end this competition right here in this set if you're Ta.
Yeah, I don't know. This is a really strange choice here. Going for minor chip, for minor control in this situation, in a meta that's so big and heavy right now.
Yeah.
Where there's all these knockout blows. this is just a bit of a surprising choice here, and Sandbox probably saw this and felt like it was a gift.
Totally. I mean, that's a really great way to put it. This was an absolute gift when you talk about a matchup here. There's really no way for him to lose this. I mean, if you even talk about just single target DPS coming out of Ta, his best thing to do is get that Tesla down regularly, right? I mean, that Tesla being played high up was something that he did time and time again, but it's just not giving you enough offensive presence ever. So Ta drops game number 1 to a very, very easy matchup that was given to Sandbox.
Yeah, very interesting. But now we go into game number 2, and you think about what Ta did here and ran a lot of really small stuff. As far as spells for Ta, Fireball, Log both out. So, you know, you gotta ask the question of where he's going from here. We've seen some heavier choices, but Fireball, Log no longer in it. Do you think we've seen him play a little bit of Lightning so far? We've seen him play some Lightnings that maybe he shouldn't have so far. I'm very curious what direction he might be going here in game number 2.
Fireball and Log are out of contention, and you're playing against the guy who has made the most spell mistakes out of anyone in the tournament, but he's in first place. So that also balances out a little bit. He's still in first place. I think maybe go back to bait here. Why not? We saw him make mistakes with it before. It felt like Sandbox didn't capitalize on the mistakes as best he should have, and Log is now out of cycle, which means, you know, if Bar Barrel's there, something like a Skarmy can be more effective, and you're going to make him have to hit spells. That's the most important part.
Well, we did see that bait matchup last time around, and you know, it was Giant Snowball, Arrows, and Earthquake for Ta that got him the win. So instead of going bait here, Sandbox going the opposite direction, going RG Cycle.
Yeah, he goes RG Cycle, probably gonna be pretty fast to get all the way around, but even this early on, he gives a lot of Elixir up. 6 Elixir to drop that RG down. Musketeer going to connect on the left-hand side, and I usually don't like seeing RGs that aggressive that early on at the bridge when your opponent hasn't shown a whole lot.
Elite Barbarian does go ahead and get that connection on the right-hand side, and look at that. Mother Witch right into it. Does get some more snout work done on the right-hand side, 15:32 to 18:10 as the first minute of gameplay passes.
Mother Witch going to go down, and we do see Sandbox down by a good amount of Elixir considering the Sparky's on the board. I like that Ta, never mind, he's going to go ahead and drop that Goblin Giant up front. Here we go. Let's see what he can do.
Yeah, and Ewiz definitely a popular combination here with the RG Cycle, and maybe sort of a mix on the old and the new, right? You have the Fisherman and Ewiz, nice popular combination. Hunter out maybe in favor of the Mother Witch in this case, and then the Elite Barbarians. Man, E-Barb's RG. We saw it yesterday, Andrew, and it still kind of is breaking my brain to see it today.
Yeah, I mean, it works, right? There's so much pressure you can create. We see right now Sandbox turning a big mistake from his opponent into an even better moment, and just like that, we see Ta calling good game already. You heard me say it on broadcast, Rich. I really didn't want to see that Goblin Giant come down at the bridge, knowing that Fisherman was back in cycle, knowing that Ewiz was probably in the deck from Sandbox. It felt way too aggressive early on, and he just got obliterated for that mistake. We're going to our super grand finals, and this is what I was saying, man. This is trouble for Ta.
Yeah, I mean, look, we've talked about it all weekend. He's gotten away with nervous mistakes, with rookie decision-making. He's gotten away with those moments, but you can only get away with those for so long.
Yep.
And in this case, you know, you have the deck choice in game number 1, and then you have, in this case, the overcommittal with that Goblin Giant in front of the Sparky. We're going to see it here, I think, pretty soon. Sparky sets up in response here, and already that Sparky, not the best Sparky in the world, right? You give up some damage here, and you give up the Elixir advantage here, and he goes, okay, well, let me double down on this. I'm a little bit ahead. And we skip to a different portion of it, and this is the big tower take. But that Goblin Giant in front of it, looking at what you're up against, just maybe a bit of an ill-advised decision.
Well, it's, you know, and the other thing you have to think about is that the 6th card has already come out from your opponent, with his first and second cards being Log and Fisherman, which means at least he can log back your Sparky, create a little bit more space, and pull your Giant or Goblin Giant to the King Tower with your Fisherman. Just not thinking about your opponent's cycle, and that's really a mistake when you're going to spend that much at the bridge in single Elixir. Easy defense, positive trades all the way across the board, and that turns into an ocean of Elixir coming down the left-hand lane.
Yeah, I'd be curious to see what Ta's hand was in that moment, why Sparky was the call there defensively as opposed to something else, because again, 6 Elixir for the Sparky, drop another with that Goblin Giant, a lot for single, as you were mentioning. But here we go, back to game number 1, and, you know, Triple Spell has a lot of defensive ability there. The Tesla mixed in with that as well, the Ewiz as well, but when really you're just getting Spell Cycle and Minor Chip for your damage in a situation like this, a brave choice from Ta that does not work out for him.
Yeah, and you know, just to add on to that, Sandbox could have done nothing the entire game and then gotten one graveyard in the final seconds and done more damage than Todd did for 4.5 minutes. And that's one of the reasons why Minor Chip is so difficult to kind of excel with at this level. So let's hop over to deck number 2 in this first set, a very fast set here in our first layer of grand finals. And we saw an interesting start. I believe it was a Flog out cycled first, and then a Fisherman from Sandbox. We saw a Musketeer come down, and then the aggressive Royal Giant. These decks, I believe, yes, the aggressive Royal Giant, and then the Sparky comes down to defend those Mother Witch Piggies. I don't know how I feel about that, man.
Yeah, I mean, Sparky in single elixir on defense. You know, some people will say maybe cycle a Sparky on defense early in single in response to a clear card that is a good Sparky target. Mother Witch is kind of a 50-50 on that one. You got to wonder if some of these smaller cards, you know, I'm just wondering what the cycle situation was. If maybe he was looking at nothing that would work. Maybe he had minions in his hand, Sparky, Goblin Giant, and maybe his Rage. And that's what he was sitting on at the moment. And of course, at that point, what do? Do you throw a Goblin Giant there and tank and just try to reset? Maybe. I think the big trouble there was doubling down with the Goblin Giant in front of the Sparky instead of resetting. And now we find ourselves in this super grand final. Ta has given up his one life. Now there are no lives to give. This is the $20,000 match.
That was exactly perfectly called there. That's exactly what he needed to do. Reset, stop with the Goblin Giant, reset, start over, but that's exactly what we're doing right now. Finals reset for you guys that haven't been here before. It's a double elimination bracket. That is the very first set that Ta has lost this entire weekend, which is why he's still in first place, which is why we're still going through our competition. Now, as Rich just said, Sandbox and Ta playing for it, all of it on the line, sudden death, elimination, whatever you want to call it. This BO3 is for all that cheddar.
Yeah, and this is a big one. You know that the entire tribe family, the tribe out there watching this one very carefully. Sandbox, one of the signers, one of the signees to Tribe Gaming for this 2020 season. And there's a reason why. Nobody who knows Clash Royale will be shocked with Sandbox winning this weekend. He's an excellent player who's been getting better, who probably would have been in CRL in the past if he'd been old enough. Right? This is one of those guys who in the team format would have eventually found his way onto a team. He's good enough to be here. Ta's one of those guys who he's having a moment, right? He's having a big time moment here, and we'll see if he can recreate it. But you got to wonder right now what he has left in the tank against this very talented pro.
Yeah, you know, you and I have been in this league for a very, very long time. And one thing that hasn't changed in all of those seasons and all of those years is when you hear about an up-and-coming star from all of the pros, from all of the orgs, from the other casters, I'd say 8 or 9 times out of 10, they come into the league and they're a very dominant player. Maybe they're not the best in the world. Samuel Basoto was one of them. Lapakati, Igor, those are some guys. Oh, and by the way, how about Ruben? He's the #1 guy we heard about for years. Just wait. Just wait till he's old enough. Just wait. Queso will win a World Finals, and they do.
Yep, absolutely. And Sandbox now, you know, I can't wait to see the end of day standings because no matter what, Sandbox is going to be way up high on that list. Probably is pretty easily crack the top 20, I believe, after today. But of course, we'll see those numbers. But a win here would put him knocking on the door of those top 10 spots, maybe even close to the top 5. So we'll have to keep an eye on that. Came in today with, I believe, 180 points. So a win right now would put him at 280. And I believe that the 2 leaders coming into this weekend were at around 290, 295. So this could be a big moment here for one of Tribe's big signees for the year. And, you know, we'll see. Already a good battle back in the first one around. I'm very curious to see what Todd does here in the second one. I really hope that he goes to a deck that slows things down. Micro has not been his forte or his fort. You know, I never know which one where the accent, which way the accent goes on that one. Has not been his strong suit this weekend, and I'm hoping maybe he goes to a deck that that has a little bit less micro, a little more macro involved.
I'd love to see that out of him too. It'll make him slow down a bit, play a little bit more defensively, and then really have to pick and choose when he wants to go heavy on offense. And maybe that'll make him think about his opponent's cycle and elixir count a little bit more than he has been, because there's been moments when he's given way too much value for exactly what you're speaking of. And what you were talking about a moment ago, those leaderboard points, Rich, if you guys aren't familiar with our format, 24 players will be immediately invited to World Finals at the end of our monthly competitions based off of their leaderboard points. 24, but there's 32 spots available at World Finals, which means the final month of competition, which I'm not 100% sure, but I think it might be November. That's more of a wild card opening for the last 8 players to solidify their spot in World Finals. So hey, maybe you want to sit back all year long and go, you know what, I'm going to be the wild card guy. Sure, go ahead and gamble. There's still a chance to get in World Finals, but I just like you're saying, man, that leaderboard, you want to be guaranteed.
Yeah, you want that locked in spot, and we're seeing some coherence in that already. We'll go through that, of course, at the end of the day. But we are seeing some players pull away and really give themselves what's going to be a hard mountain to climb for the other players trying to catch up to them with the performances we've had so far. And Sandbox very close to joining that upper echelon of players with the performances he's had so far this season. And if he can do some of what he did last year and the year before in ladder, that will be big for him. So here we go. The Super Grand Final, best of 3. Loser takes home $10,000. Winner doubles that amount and gets a huge step forward towards our World Championship.
With $30,000 up to grab, this is a $10,000 per game set. Let's go. Sandbox, top of your screen, busting out that Mother Witch early on. Ta at the bottom, trying to recover from a horrible, horrible opening finals there. But that's the beauty of having a double elimination bracket and playing so clean through the weekend.
Wow, what a choice to make. Of all the cards that got nerfed and that really are not popular in the meta right now, to pull Bomb Tower game number 1 against Mother Witch Royal Hogs with the NATO on top of it. Really, really nice situation. I was about to say, when we were talking about the micro issues, that Taz had some macro issues as well, as we saw that in that Goblin Giant Sparky game. And I was going to come back and say that I hope that I think the smart choice for Ta is to go for matchup. Try to go for 80-20s, 90-10s, 100-0s if he can put it that way. And looks like he was going for counter very, very heavily here in game number 1.
So Poison going to come down and help take that Flying Machine off the board. A little bit more love is going to have to be paid attention to that Mega Knight. Barbarrel comes in on both sides. That Barbarian now demanding the Ice Wizard to come out from Ta. But so far, looking like a very good matchup. Like you said, Rich, very little damage has come in anywhere on the board. Just a hair on that left-hand side. And I think the control that we're seeing out of Ta, it's what both of us talked about in the interim between these two final sets. I like what he's doing here early.
Yeah, and this is going to be a nice defensive setup. You're going to have a healthy baby dragon. You know, no ability to double down here. And if he does go with the graveyard, that would be a mistake. Decides not to. So it's interesting. He is playing graveyard here, or it looks like graveyard at least. Kind of a classic variant of graveyard, if you will. But up against Mother Witch, this will be very interesting.
Yeah, the thing that's also really nice for Ta here this early on, Rich, is that he already has that King Tower activated. And that King Tower being activated, a little low there on the Barbarrel interaction mistake from Ta. Not very surprising since we've seen a lot of those from him. But what I was going to say is that King Tower activation is really going to help deal with that Mega Knight when he crosses the bridge. As this deck struggles with high single target DPS, if you can get 3 or 2 towers shooting on that Mega Knight when that Knight is tanking, it's really, really going to help out.
Interesting choice there from Sandbox, and the right call here. Going to go for the little bit of damage on tower rather than try to worry about the bridge fight. Knows it's not going to turn into much the opposite direction, so 1654 on that left-hand tower. Untouched is Sandbox as we are 10 seconds away from sudden death.
And I really like this dual lane pressure coming from Sandbox. So I was just going to say, one of the things that Ta's going to have to do here in this game is create opposite lane pressure, because the biggest problem with this deck is, you know, a lot of times when you're playing Graveyard, you're happy to keep going into the same deck or the same side of the map over and over as your opponent, but he's never really going to win the DPS battle, and I think that'll leave him lacking on the bridge battles.
And here we go, Mother Witch working on the graveyard, and you get 2 parts about that. You get the Mother Witch, of course, turning those skeletons into piggies, but also those piggies end up tanking for the tower there against the skeletons a little bit. So works out nicely, but so far, despite other than the one big connection, Ta's defense holding here in these last couple exchanges.
Yeah, that's very, very true. And so we see him going back on the offense, knowing that there's only 80 seconds left to play. Mother Witch in the back to spawn a bunch of skeletons. Does have to drop a Bar Barrel. Bar Barrel comes in time to pick up the Baby D, and Piggy's working their way down the left-hand side.
Here we go, game number 1, about 70 seconds left. Triple Elixir on its way. That's a whole lot of pigs going in the opposite direction. Sandbox and Ta pretty even on Elixir right now. Fireball to clear things out, and that's a good little extra bit of damage, plus a pig on top of it.
Yeah, I love that interaction there. It felt like Sandbox had overspent just a bit, but that over expenditure actually was able to keep him on the offensive and not allow his opponent, not allow Ta to get another effective graveyard down. Now you see another Ocean coming down the left-hand side with the Fireball on top of that Ice Wizard. This is beautiful stuff here.
Well, Graveyard game 1, Andrew. Going Graveyard before you know if Mother Witch has or has not been played. You talk about it being a risky call, and now here we go. 30 seconds left goes the opposite. Zappies and Bar Barrel will be there.
Yeah, and this is one thing I was saying we would have liked to see a little bit earlier out of Ta, was split up this kind of Elixir expenditure from his opponent and make it so that he can't just keep putting these big pushes down the left-hand lane. And right now we're seeing kind of it come in a bit too late to make much of a difference.
You know, I don't know what Ta's known for in his latter play, or if he's known as a graveyard player, and this was a comfort deck choice situation. But man, you know, with Mother Witch and E-Barbs both out there, but Mother Witch in particular, Graveyard in game number 1, you're rolling the dice, and every once in a while you come up Snake Eyes.
Yeah, I mean, right now, Sandbox doing all things correct. When you talk about deck choice, you talk about matchup, you talk about patience, everything. He's now on a 3-game win streak against a guy that didn't even lose a set. And now he's in the lead in an elimination in our Super Grand Finals. How quickly things can change.
Yeah, change very quickly indeed. You see the King Tower activation, but 4 Elixir deficit there for Ta, and missing the Flying Machine pickup. Just a couple little things here and there. Sandbox has stayed focused, didn't let the first one shake him. And that, you know, there's some help there. You know, the question of mentality, right? When you get into a situation where you lose that first BO3, and you lose it in such a fashion where you go, look at how rough this matchup is. My opponent can miss spells, and I'm still losing this one.
Yeah.
Some players get frustrated there. Some players get focused there. And so far, it looks like Sandbox has gotten focused, and now he is 1 win away from our April championship.
I mean, look, man, I'm not the best at this game. I think we all know that. And if I'm playing against someone with bait and they miss 4 spells throughout the game and I still lose, I'm furious. And what Sandbox is doing here is he's turned that anger, like you said, he's motivated himself. And I think I can't imagine that he walked away from that game just feeling like he blew it. He really, really did. He could have stayed in the winner's bracket. He could have had the life to give, and he'd already be the champion had he just capitalized on those mistakes earlier in the day. But as you said before, that is the past. This is the future. And right now, if we're talking the future, Sandbox looks like there's no way he's going to drop this BO3 with the way he is outplaying Ta.
I mean, who knows? Tom might come out with some crazy matchups here, and if I'm him, I'm just looking at going, what is the... I'm looking for only 100 zeros here. I'm rolling... He rolled the dice in game number 1. Maybe not the right roll of the dice, in my opinion. I'm rolling the dice even harder in game number 2. I'm not trying to outplay Sandbox. I'm trying to outmatch up Sandbox here as time goes on. On the other side of it, Tribe Gaming has had a lot of moments with promise, a lot of moments where they thought, hey, this is it. And right now, he might finally be seeing the promise of the premise.
So I was expecting Ta to either go to the skies with Lava or go back to Electro Giant, but then he's not going to rock Electro Giant because of all the support cards he used in his previous matchup. He likes to surround the Electro Giant with the Baby Dragon, with the Ice Wiz, obviously the NATO as well, but Lightning being in play is not enough to go back to that E-Giant. So we're going to see him go to the skies here with Lava Hound, which is another deck he's been pretty successful with. And I'm wondering if Sandbox was expecting that, which is why we see such a quick cycle deck out of him.
Here we go. Tesla in response, pulling all that together. Magic Archer going to work here for a moment. And Miner there to continue kiting, but some of the pups do go and get on that Magic Archer.
That is a really, really nice kite, though, for what was at that, or coming across the bridge there. I think he takes a lot more damage than he would have expected. That Magic Archer just a little bit slow on the draw with those arrows, but I like the idea of the kite.
And arrows, of course, up against the wall breakers. That is a -1 trade for Ta, but still an easy way to always make sure those things don't touch. So here we go. approaching the midway point of regulation, and at the moment, Todd does have the lead, 13-35 to 20-91.
When you see Sandbox trying to set up in the left-hand side, shift where this game is being played to the opposite lane, since that tower has 1100 more HP. Probably going to get something down in front of this Magic Archer to help tank for that Goblin cage, and high Inferno to respond.
And NATO for a little bit of geometry here. We'll see if that does pay off in the long run. Doesn't get the last couple of shots, and now a little dual lane pressure here with Sandbox going with the Spear Goblins over to the left-hand side and trying to create his alternate lane pressure himself.
Yeah, and I like this. This is what he has to keep doing. With the arrows in cycle, he has to create a way to use these bait cards. Beautiful log there to pick up the guards. That way he knows arrows have to come out in response so he can sell out with the wall breakers. I love this push from Sandbox. The only thing I don't like, Rich, is I don't think he actually needed the wall breakers. His opponent would have had to double down on defense without those wall breakers, and that's why he's going to lose this tower.
Yeah, he's losing that one in rough fashion, and now we're in a two-tower game, and a lot of damage coming in. Goes wall breakers under on the right-hand side, 30 seconds left, right into that Goblin cage, and here we go. Ta now setting up slowly. Lava Hound, good choice here for him in game number 2. We'll see if it can pay off.
Yeah, and you know, Ta has the luxury with this matchup now to just keep doing what he's doing. Drop cards offset to the right. It'll protect your weaker tower, so your opponent will have to go to the King Tower, which we all know with this Wall Breakers deck is a very, very difficult ask. And then he can always double down and decide if he wants to go on offense when he has this push working down the middle of the map.
One wall breaker does connect on the right-hand side. First Magic Archer will go down. Second Magic Archer now on the board. Tesla and Valk trying to protect here. 2 Lava Hounds on the board, and now opposite lane pressure from Sandbox. But this might be too much. No, but the arrows go towards the Tesla, and now Spear's out to help.
I was just going to say, I don't know if he's going to use the arrows here. It could be ill-advised. He decides to use them to take the Magic Archer out of play, which actually ends up being the better move. He eats the wall breaker damage, and now he's got a good push here in the pocket. Miner goes to the outside. Rich, this is trouble.
Yeah, I mean, look, it's so difficult. The aerial responses for Sandbox, no spell that truly targets air. You have NATO, but that's not a get stuff off the board spell, right? There's no fireball here. There's no poison here. There's no royal delivery. A really tough spot here, and so far, Ta taking advantage with 70 seconds left.
Ta goes high there with the Inferno Dragon going here. I'm not even going to play with that Magic Archer. Turns it all the way around. Happy to go for the 4-for-4 trade and a little bit of damage. Miner going to go to the inside. Yes, it does. Tesla is there, but this is basically all Ta for the rest of this game. We are going most likely to a game number 3 in our Super Grand Finals, and he tries for the Magic Archer in the pocket. I do love that play.
Yeah, tried to go for it. The geometry wasn't quite there and went Miner to the safe spot. You know, trying not to give up that minor damage to the King Tower, but you know, might be nice to see a different variation on spot here. Now, here we go. Sandbox trying to hold on. Miner comes in. Tesla working. Can he stop this Miner? No, King Tower goes down, and we are going to a best of 1 for $20,000.
That's it. A BO1 for $20,000. Inferno takes that King Tower down, and Ta with an incredible, incredible recovery. It was all in that moment where Sandbox spent just a little bit too much elixir on offense, and he would have loved to have that back on the defensive side of things.
It's these wall breakers right here. You know,
Yeah.
if he has something to kite these troops away, then maybe he has a shot right now, but instead he's kind of left wanting. Didn't need the wall breakers, and this tower might have survived for at least one more push if he'd had that 2 elixir available for a kite.
And that's exactly what you want to do, because now we see Sandbox drop the wall breakers at the bridge right into a Goblin cage in a 2-tower game, and it really felt like this moment on, we knew there was no way Sandbox was going to win. He made it a lot closer than I honestly thought he was going to, but it still felt like an unwinnable match at that point when you're down elixir, down a tower, and you're playing in this matchup.
Look, I mean, some of these defenses from Sandbox are absolutely crazy. The way he extended the game, Sandbox gave himself a real chance. There's no question about it. Gave himself a real chance here, even in this bad situation, but it was a super bad situation, and Tom made a great call here. Went for matchup, went for advantage, and got it.
Yep, 150%. I like that he went to the skies. I like that he went heavy there. We won't see Electro Giant out of him in this last game, I don't think, just because of what we saw before in his first deck of the day. I mean, maybe now it's time for him to go Goblin Giant Sparky?
Oh, interesting. I mean, we saw it last time around. Definitely has some of those pieces available. Very curious to see what kind of choices he makes here. Or does he get wild? Does he go with something totally out there and again try to go with matchup, right? We see how often someone, we haven't seen it yet all this weekend, right? But we see how often someone kind of copies deck. Hey, Lava worked well for you. Well, Lava might work well for me. We've seen Sandbox run Lava. Do we see 3M come out here from Ta for the final match of the day?
Final match of the day, $30,000 on the line. One walks away with 20, the other with 10. One from Korea, the other from Japan, and both of them are rookies here in CRL 2021.
Hey, what a debut either way. And there you go, the high flying machine, not seen as much these days. Hunter just takes that off the board.
See the Mother Witch coming out for Ta now, a card that he neglected in previous sets, so happy to see him utilizing her.
And Royal Hogs with the Goblin Cage and Hunter both out of cycle. That's going to be a lot of damage here, a decent amount of damage here. Snowball comes in to reset, but that's still going to be a few hundred HP off that left-hand tower.
Yeah, a few hundred HP and a lot of elixir down. We see him tick into 5 as an opponent ticks to 9, so he can go heavy here with the E-Barbs. Great response going to come out with that Goblin Cage, but going to need just a little bit more, I believe, on the defensive side if he wants to mitigate 100% of his damage.
Todd is trying to sell out here. Todd is trying to go, hey, I want to bloody your nose fast. I want to blacken your eyes quickly. My goal here is I'm not sitting here trying to play with you, toy with you. Let's go ahead and get a tower very, very fast, try to catch you off guard. And Sandbox so far up to the task.
Mega Knight going to cross the bridge here, maybe a high flying machine out of Tar, if he's going to sit back and let it happen. Mama P.E.K.K.A. back out, not what you want to see.
So this is really interesting, Andrew. Of course, P.E.K.K.A. fantastic in response to Mega Knight, but you look at how we're going to see the defenses against the Royal Hogs and potentially that E-Barbs going opposite directions. Hunter, Ewiz, Snowball, Cage, he's got to make sure he's always putting those together in the right way.
Mama P.E.K.K.A. demands that log. You see the Snowball come down, should have split 2 to the left instead of 2 to the right, and because of that we have to see the overexpenditure from Ta once again. It is a very small interaction, but it is a noteworthy one.
And nice Ewiz behind the cage here from Sandbox to set up into that left-hand lane where he is putting the pressure. A little bit of dual lane pressure right now for Sandbox as we go into double elixir time. Flying Machine and Mother Witch on the board right now for Ta.
You can see Ta putting those E-Barbs down in front of the Flying Machine. P.E.K.K.A. going to get in front of that Hunter. This is definitely going to be an interaction that goes in the favor of Tribe's representative on the right-hand side of your screen. But curious to see if we'll see him really get aggressive. We haven't seen it at all here as we're about to get into overtime.
Cage sets up right now for Sandbox. Mega Knight going to get deep into enemy territory. Sandbox taking his time here. Sets up the E-Wiz in the back, and now we have Pigs go the opposite lane.
I like the E-Wiz in the back instead of dropping the P.E.K.K.A. up high. That way he has enough elixir to defend the opposite lane. He knows the Goblin Brawler is going to do enough tanking for that P.E.K.K.A. with the help of the E-Wiz. Really, really nice decision-making there from Sandbox.
Sandbox trying to make sure that that Flying Machine does not have opportunities to really get set up and going. And now Mother Witch behind a Mega Knight into this left-hand lane. First pig spawns, P.E.K.K.A. going to take her time to get there up front. So the cage has to come out as well.
E-Barb sneaks in front of the Mega Knight, going to get taken out of contention here by that Mama P.E.K.K.A. Both of them actually go right through to the Mama P.E.K.K.A., which is maybe a fortunate interaction here for Sandbox as it finally turns to that Mega Knight late in that whole exchange. But the Mega Knight, not the damage dealer you have to be worried about.
90 seconds is the remaining time with 11:97. Keep in mind right now, Andrew, Ta is in the lead as we approach triple.
80 seconds left. $20,000 on the line for first, and Ta is in the lead by about 400 HP, and it feels like Sandbox has found himself in a really, really rough position to turn this game in his favor. I still want to know what that 8th card is, and I want to see him play it soon. He's only got 60 seconds left.
It feels like maybe this is a P.E.K.K.A. GY deck. Not entirely sure. Has not gone to that 8th card yet. And now this is the chance. This is the counter push opportunity, and there it is. The Graveyard does come out in triple elixir, and look at that. High go the Zappy Snowball, trying to make some room, and this is why we haven't seen it, Andrew, playing Graveyard here against Mother Witch. So we talked about that in game number 1, Ta playing Graveyard against Mother Witch. The tables turn here, and Sandbox in a lot of trouble.
This is a lot of trouble. That Mother Witch staying alive, out of the poison. This is an ocean of elixir coming across. This is going to do it. Ta has just won $20,000, and we didn't know who he was 2 days ago.
The Ta flop there at the end. The celebration might become legendary now. We have an unknown player from Who Are You to monthly champion. Well, I'll tell you right now, he's Ta, and he is now on the radar of this league.
Molite takes month 1, Line takes month 2, and then an unknown named Ta comes into month 3 and takes $20,000+ over 100 leaderboard points, and that is just a testament to show that anyone can be here on this stage at the end of every single month. Wow.
Absolute wow there, Andrew. I mean, it really looked like he was in a lot of trouble after that game number 1. Made a great choice in game number 2. And then Sandbox here, you haven't seen Mother Witch yet. And maybe he was just betting that Ta wasn't going to play Mother Witch again. Goes Graveyard against Mother Witch, and now we understand what was happening, right? He knew he was up against basically an insanely bad matchup situation here in game number 3. Couldn't find a time that made sense to play Graveyard. Couldn't really put together the proper defenses, and he paid for it here. That's $10,000. That's a nice chunk of change. He'll be way up high on the leaderboard. But Ta here, just what a wild weekend for a guy who I don't know if he's ever played on camera before, much less has never played before in CRL.
I love a Cinderella story. I love it so very much. There's the iconic Ta flop, as we call it. And you know, as much as we gave him a hard time, you did it, I did it, Eric did it, Josh did it, he made a lot of mistakes this weekend. He really did. In almost every single set, we saw him make mental mistakes, but he never gave up on himself. He always recovered, and his understanding of the game and the game chemistry, the macro, what he needs to adjust mid-game, that was unparalleled when you talk about him and his opponents.
Wow. Just absolute wow. 28 of 40, right? Like that is skating on through to get that championship, right? This was not an insane domination of the league overall. This was, you know, getting some balls bouncing the right way. But now number one at the end. And look, that's what matters at the end of the day is what do you walk away with? Well, he walks away with a first place, walks away with a big pile of cash, and walks away with some notoriety that maybe he never expected, and now he'll have.
Yeah, I just could not be happier for this young man representing Japan coming in. I think it was Josh that said it yesterday. Maybe it was Eric just talking about CRL East kind of dominating the West here in April. And we see our grand final, someone from South Korea and, of course, from Japan duking it out. And what a dominant first set there by Sandbox. I mean, it looked like it was all over for Ta early. Yep. And just a crazy 180 in that final set. He stuck with it, man, and he did not let that first set get to him, which I think is almost the most impressive thing.
Yeah, I mean, look at that. And then game 1 of that super grand final where Ta just got completely blown out of the water, and you're like, wrap it up in a bow, send the trophy to Tribe's house right now. This is it. Sandbox has it locked and loaded. And then we were talking about it before game 2. Ta needs to go for good matchup. That's what he needs to stop worrying about trying to outplay and start worrying about how to outpick. And great pick with Lava in game number 2. And then, you know, I am still shocked with Sandbox going with Graveyard in game number 3. You haven't seen Mother Witch yet. You haven't seen a lot of counters to Graveyard yet. And GY in game number 3, Ta made a great call, and that was a $20,000 pick.
Yeah, I mean, I'm thinking maybe Sandbox went back to the idea that Ta actually skipped an entire set with Mother Witch earlier in the day, and he goes, maybe he's going to do it again. And kind of as we're looking at the graphics here through all of our leaderboard points, all of our prize earnings for these guys, you talk about 3 players now that have all walked away with a ton of cash in Molite, Line, and Ta. And now a list of leaderboards with a lot of familiar names, Rich, a lot of guys that you and I have been talking about for year after year after season. But again, there's a reason why it says that at the bottom of the screen. Compete in CRL now, because you could be the next Ta.
That's it. Top 1,000 in ladder at the end of the season. Go ahead and play your way through Swiss, get to the top 32, get your way here. And it is just push that ladder, top 1,000. And yeah, it really truly can be anybody. And we're going to have the leaderboards here in just a moment. But I believe that these scores are going to put both of these guys into the top 10. I think that we're going to see Ta with 275, right? Something like that. Maybe let's take a look at this one for a second. No, Ta Oh, you know what? I had that math a little bit wrong there, but take a look at that. Sandbox now up to 250 with those 70 points, puts himself on that top of the leaderboard.
So Todd just needs to have one more good month, even if he doesn't qualify for 8. If he gets in the top 32, top 1,000, it'll give him a lot more points and probably make himself up here into this top 10 on the leaderboard. Excuse me, top whatever this is, 15. So then we see here this list of players, as we were just talking about, they are all big in the Clash Royale scene and have been for a very long time. Sandbox, a guy that we mentioned before, his name has been thrown around for years. He just became old enough. Otherwise, he's surrounded by Clash Royale greatness.
Yeah, I mean, Sandbox, and you think about that, the win would have put Sandbox in the top 10 if he had taken that dub here, but instead still top 20. Ta now going to be knocking on the outside of that door with just over 200 points and I think 215. So he's actually tied with some of the players who are in that top 20 at the moment. Big time win for Ta. Now here's the big question. Young man, can you do it again?
I mean, who knows? He did an incredible job this weekend, and none of us thought he'd even make it out of that very first set, but that means that you are the one that controls your destiny. So compete in CRL now. You can do it next month in May. You just saw a rookie do it, and you saw another rookie put him on watch. Sandbox and Ta, I'm sure you'll see a lot more of them as this year goes forward. Rich, I love the competition this weekend. The biggest thing for me that I recognized is, yes, duels format is something that you have to think about strategy-wise, but now you got to think about the information you give away in game number 1. That's the biggest thing I recognized, and that's my biggest takeaway from this weekend.
Yeah, very curious to see how these analysts, the ones who are working with players, make some choices as we go into our next month. Prepare for the next Swiss bracket, prepare for the next top 32, prepare for the next top 8, because this was interesting. And of course, how much might this meta shift? This was a crazy weekend. Maybe the most deck variants we've seen definitely throughout 2021 so far in CRL. Will it settle for next month, or will it get even crazier?
There's only one way to find out, and that's to make sure that you guys are following everything that we do at Esports Royale EN on Twitter. Make sure you hit that subscribe button here on YouTube and ring that bell. That way you know when we go live. We go live very early here over in the States. You don't want to miss a minute of action. You can follow my boy over here at Rich Slayton. Go follow him on YouTube. He's putting up great content all the time. You can follow me at Andrew Guy. And of course, do not forget about our boys AC and EB7. You can find all of us on all the social platforms.
And of course, one last time, a big happy birthday to Joshua AC Sharon. Thank you so much for taking your birthday to be part of the CRL weekend. And thanks to all of you watching and being a part of this as well. Hopefully next month, we're casting you here on our monthly final. For Josh, for Eric, for my brother from another mother, Andrew Guy, I'm Rich Slayton. We'll see you back here next month for Clash Royale League.
Bye, guys.